Just immediately start with, I asked the question, what is COR? Certificate of insurance. So like if somebody wanted to vend and hurt his trade and insurance policy. It's for the heritage.
Oh, yeah, vendors typically do that, get it added.
Do you know what kind of insurance do it?
It's general.
General liability. Okay, good evening. I'd ask you to stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ask the town clerk to do the roll call, please.
Councilman Coleman.
Here.
Councilwoman Allen. Here. Councilman Paddock.
Here.
Councilman Sousa. Here. Supervisor Lee.
Here. I'd ask for a acceptance of the agenda. The town board accepts the agenda as prepared by the town supervisor. We will be adding 2 additions, 1 resolution of a request for use of the pavilion and us waiving the fee, and the other in discussion items, the consolidated funding grant application information has come out. So I want to discuss that. So I'd ask for that motion with those 2 additions.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. A quick note, after last meeting, we now have 2 microphones in here. I went back and listened, and for both the board and for the public, you can speak clearly and as loudly as you can, obviously in the speaking tone, but just make sure you're speaking loud enough that the microphones pick you up. It does make it easier for the people watching at home. So, our first agenda item is a presentation. Walnut Brook LLC, who has given us an EEO, which is Economic Enterprise Overlay Zone request for zoning designation. They had appeared before the town board last year. They have made some changes and they would like to present the changes. I emailed each of you the package of the information I got last night. For tonight, if you want to follow along, there's 2 copies there of the full package. 2 of you can share each. And Kate, I guess you and I can share. Skip, are you going to present? And if you are, I'd ask you, I can give you sharing capability if you would like.
That would be great, but I'll turn it over to Kanan, who's representing the applicant, to lead things off. But yes, if you could provide sharing, that'd be great.
Let me give you sharing capabilities so you can share this screen. Okay. Okay, so Kanan, if you would want to just introduce yourself. We have some new board members since the last time you were here, I think. Although I think they both heard your original presentation, and then you want to go ahead and present.
Absolutely. First off, thank you for having us, and my apologies for not being there in person. My name is Kenan Gunduz. This project is a partnership. We are seeking to do an adaptive reuse of the former Maybrook Lodge and the boarding houses and other structures on the property into 24 units of good quality residential. The idea is to make use of the structures that are in good enough shape to salvage and that have the qualities that lend themselves to a good structure. There are unfortunately a couple of parts of the property that we're going to have to tear down, but we're making every effort to reuse what is available. And in addition, we're proposing to add 9 units of residential in 3 buildings in an area of the property that we think lends itself to that. So when we last presented, we were still waiting for a lot of information. We've been doing, of course, our water studies to make sure that the aquifer below is able to support the density that we're proposing. And also, we've been working hand in hand with Creighton Manning as our engineering consultant, and we're very happy to have him here to analyze the septic and whether or not this property can support the septic for the density that we're proposing. In the meantime, we've also kind of flushed out a workable, what we think is a workable arrangement for parking. And we even have a lighting arrangement in there. We've been hard at work on the architectural side of it, seeing that these units can be of a nice, comfortable scale and that they work well within the structures that exist and the ones that we're planning to build, that we'd like to build. And also making sure to try to preserve the character of the buildings that may be period. There are some structures that seem to date from earlier in the century, if not the turn of the century. And we would seek to preserve that aesthetic, of course, updating them functionally to make sure, they're energy efficient and they're safe and, to code and all that. The actual motel building, which formerly had 16 units, we proposed to reduce that by half to 8 units. And to kind of rework the exterior a little bit to have it more in keeping with a sort of farmhouse and residential look, like the other houses on the property have, and like buildings in the surrounding area. And then the 3 units that we're proposing to build new, the 3 buildings we're proposing to build new, each of which has 3 units, are following a similar design aesthetic to try to blend into the period structures and the style of architecture and buildings that we see in the area and on this property. So since we've last come before you, we've completed, we've had Bob Miller at Miller Hydrogeologic complete a study of the existing wells. He's done flow testing. He's studied and analyzed drawdown and recovery. And he's also taken samples for a full Part 5 water quality analysis. The studies for flow and drawdown and recovery are presented to you for your review. And they seem to show no lack of water on site. There seems to be ample supply, even pumping twice what would be required for the use of the structures and the proposed density that we have. We don't yet have the results of the Part 5 water quality tests because many of those had to go out west. There are some tests for even radiation materials that may be existent in the bedrock or the aquifer. So those are specialized and they had to go to California, and we're awaiting those. We should have them within a couple of weeks. But per our consultant who would be designing the water system, Peak Engineering, the water quality is something that has to meet DOH standards regardless. and it can be addressed in the design of the actual system. The quantity is, of course, of utmost importance to make sure that's there, and that, you know, when it's pulled out of the ground, it's recovering quickly enough and it's not drawing down too much that we know the aquifer has ample supply and is healthy. So that's the report that you should have from Miller Hydrogeologic I'll leave it to Skip to present that in greater detail if needed. Our bedroom count has reduced by 1. So initially we had 40 bedrooms we were proposing, and just due to the way the structures lay out on the inside and making sure that they're, you know, comfortable and good quality, the numbers shook out to 39. So we actually have 1 less bedroom. It's not really changing what we're going for in terms of the number of parking units. We're going to provide the whatever's required by code for that. We're not reducing our original proposed design flow for water and septic. We're still with the numbers as though we had 40 bedrooms, but as it turns out, we have 39. So there's even a little bit more of a buffer there. We also have some elevations to share that show a rough idea of what the buildings will look like when they're renovated or done. You'll see that the ones that are pre-existing don't look much different than how they look now. They'll be preserved. The motel has a little bit of a different look, which we think is more in keeping. And the 3 structures that are proposed new, thank you, Skip, are in keeping with these are all existing structures that we're seeing. Skip, I don't know if you'd mind scrolling down to the motel for a second.
Sure. Let's go to this one.
Thank you. In A206 in the bottom right-hand corner. This is the new look proposed for something that was put up mid-century and had these sort of, excuse me. It was sort of like a 50s structure with then kind of like a Greek colonnade design in front. It had like balconies, top and bottom. And this just hopefully blends in. And as you can see, we're trying to site all the entrances, so there's relative privacy. This is the densest of the buildings. And even at that, we're trying to make sure that the entrances to each unit are separate from each other a little bit. So, you know, it feels comfortable for folks who are going to be living there. And I wonder, Skip, if you could bring us to building 10.
Give me a minute. Here's the data scrolls. Here's building 10.
Yes, great. Thank you. This is the proposed look of the new structures, and there'll be 3 of these. And of course, we attempted to be as close as possible to making them look like a farmhouse. And again, you'll see that the entrances to the units are discrete from one another. So the folks who would rent these units would have a sense of privacy, and of course, the landscaping around it would be kept as natural as possible, and so that they could have some breathing room. And also these structures, the new structures, would screen from the road the view of the former motel. It's another thought that we had to try to make this appear from the road as something that's more a series of houses, of residences, rather than you know, a large apartment building. Of course, even the 8 units is not going to be a large apartment building, but these will be a lot nicer to look at than the long structure, which these will screen. That, and we've also had a traffic analysis completed by Creighton Manning, which we've included. And we have the driveway that Skip can show us in greater detail, trying to keep in mind, of course, turning radiuses for emergency vehicles. And that's sort of the general overview. I will turn it over to Skip for details, and of course, any questions, we'd be more than happy to hear and answer to the best of our ability. And I turn it over to Skip.
All right, thank you, Kanan. There's just a slight delay in some of this transmission over the video, but I'll try not to make anybody seasick. Kanan spoke about the water. I think the report, he summarized well, and the report speaks for itself within your package. I'll jump over to the septic system. We're proposing, this is just a layout plan at the moment, but the existing septic system sits in this area behind the motel. And we're proposing that entire existing septic system be removed. It's at the end of its useful life. And we're proposing a new septic system to go in. This size and the expansion areas would be in the back. We've preliminarily laid this out. We have percolation tests yet to perform, but we have no reason to believe that it will not work again. It's going to be a raised bed system, much like the existing system that's there now. We've have a consultant doing the environmental threat and endangered species report. That information is pending. That same consultant produced a wetland survey and delineation. There are no federal wetlands that exist on the property. And we've provided separation buffers from water streams for our plans. There is a flood zone on the property, and all the structures except for this one is in it at the moment, but it's above the finished floor.
Skip, sorry to interrupt. This is the storied building 1 that we've discussed and presented before. My understanding is it's not actually in a floodplain at all, but it is within the 100-foot distance of the stream. Our understanding is that the town of Rochester doesn't allow new structures to be built within that buffer, within that 100-foot distance. We had asked, as part of the EEO, that the board kindly consider allowing us to keep this existing structure and restore it. It is in great shape. It is a period structure. It would remain a one-family dwelling. And it's not in a flood zone. It is within that 100-foot radius of the stream, but well above the flood zone. So that is still, up to the consideration of the board. And thank you for hearing me out. And sorry for interrupting there.
That's right. And just pointing to the existing conditions map and the plans that are before the board tonight, the blue line here is the flood zone line. So the structure is outside of that flood zone, but here is the 100-foot separation line that Kanan was speaking to from this water course. So this is the structure you're talking about. Moving on, he spoke about the structures of the design and fitting into the character of the neighborhood. The parking, I'll jump to we have proposed 61 parking spaces along this arrangement. These are the 3 new structures that Kanan was speaking to. That provides a
I'm
little
sorry,
bit
Skip,
of,
which
Yep.
plan is this you have up now? What
this
number?
one is the layout conditions, sheet 5.
5, okay, thank you.
These are the 3 new structures that Kanan spoke about to kind of block and break up and screen this longer structure that's being repurposed. The parking banks will be down between the structures. We'll break them up a little bit with some islands and some landscaping on those islands. And there will be some parking that runs back between these structures as well. The traffic report Kanan mentioned too that our firm has provided no major impacts on that. The lighting plan has not been finalized. We did not get the fixtures selected in this particular plan. It's still preliminary. That'll come, but they're dark sky cutoff fixtures that'll be decorative to the building mounted and fit into the style and character of the buildings there. There's a few dots on the plan that are not really labeled at this time that are little bollard lights in a way to provide some lighting on a path at night in front of the cars. So
Skip, once those, the exact fixtures are determined, if you can supply sheets for those, the county will definitely want to see those.
certainly.
Thank you.
Certainly. And one of the last things on the list here is landscaping. It's still a little premature for landscaping at this point in time, but we plan to, beautify and supplement the areas that are lawn with some colorful and plantings of the area and save as many mature trees as possible and utilize those in our layout. Stormwater management, one other thing I wanted to mention too, we're proposing this being our area out in front as our low-lying treatment and collection area. And we're in the process of beginning to think about that and the final preliminary treatment and detention practices. Of course, a SWIP will be required and it'll be in compliance with that as well. Those are the general highlights of the technical matters. If Kanan has any more to add, we can go there, but otherwise we can turn it over to questions for the board. And I think one of the objectives tonight is, or the request is, if the board is comfortable considering seeker next step of a negative declaration, or if you need more time to consider, please let us know. But that's one of our key requests to put before you tonight. I will stop share unless we need to point to anything else. There we go.
Okay, Kanan, anything else to add? If not, let me let each of the board members see if they have questions, and same with our attorney.
We'd love to hear questions.
Okay,
Thank you.
Aaron, I'll start with you.
I don't have any questions at this time. I don't feel like I could do seeker tonight though, since we just got. the
Yeah,
information.
I was going to say that since we just got the package last night, Skip, I definitely want the board time to review it. Possibly at our next meeting on the 18th, we can see out of our discussion what questions remain to be answered. I'm not. Well, let me let the other board ask questions, and then I can fill you in on a couple that I had. So, Adam, anything?
No, it's nice to watch the plans mature. They're looking pretty sharp.
Charlotte?
No, I think I might have some. I got into the information packet, but I think right now.
Michael?
So I know there was one thing when reading through the water report, which was long and way over my head in a lot of cases. There was some malfunction in some of the neighboring test equipment. Can you talk a little bit about what the plan is? If there's a plan to do any additional, some kind of pressure sensor issue?
Miller Hydrogeologic, Bob Miller did mention some kind of sensor not functioning in one of the sensors in one of the wells, and he did say that he was going to follow up with a test. We don't have that yet from him, as we're also waiting on the Part 5 water quality test to be returned. So that is something we'll absolutely follow up on. We'll have him follow up on, and we'll submit it.
That was a sensor in an adjacent well, wasn't it, Kanan, or was it on
Yeah,
this
but
property?
the adjacent properties.
One of the adjacent ones? Okay.
That was my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah. Skip, where do we stand? Have you shared any of this information yet with the Board of Health? I know basically they didn't want to see it until it was a complete package, but I'm just wondering where where that communication stands at this point.
We have not provided or submitted anything to the Board of Health yet, but we are, as the plan has developed, we wanted to make sure we had a water supply also. And we've computed what we know the disposal requirements will be, but not yet anything to the Department of Health.
Okay. And then as far as the Department of Transportation, I know when we had our initial meeting, they, as long as you met their standard for the curb cut, they had no issues. I know there was a discussion of possibly a traffic study or traffic count. Is that, are they asking for that or are they not?
They have not, but that has been provided in our traffic assessment.
Okay,
Our peak travel periods in morning and afternoon are about 12 and 15 respectively, when compared to 700 and 890 or so respectively in the volumes on the street. So it's a very minute amount, not enough to trigger any further detailed studies, but that report would be certainly available to be circulated to DOT at the time. And yes, we do have their commercial driveway specification details already kind of incorporated thus far, but nothing's been submitted yet to DOT.
okay. And then sort of staying on transportation, have you, and I'm assuming you probably have, you've checked radiuses of the parking area and everything for the ability for fire and rescue to get in and be able to move within the site?
Yes.
Okay. Where do we stand? I know you had for the archaeological study, I know there was your consultant was speaking with SHPO. I know that because we set up the account for him. Do you know where that stands? I know there was some communication back and forth, but I once the account was set up, I stepped away from the communication. So.
I can perhaps answer that one. I know that Mr. Joe Diamond has completed his submission and is still awaiting comments.
Okay.
And he was expecting comments to come back within about 6 weeks. We're a little bit past that period, but it's not too far off. So hopefully we have.
Because that is a piece that we probably need more definitive answers on, other than where we are before we can finalize a deck. You know, the water and septic, you have provided studies of we have addressed the traffic. So the archaeological is the one area that I can think of off the top of my head. Maybe Mary Lou can think of something else, but that's the one that really, I think, lingers, that we, not so much the architectural, but the archaeological. So, Mary Lou, any questions or anything from you?
No, I'm happy to hear that everybody feels that they're not ready to make a seeker determination tonight, because I know I haven't read through the things yet that you submitted that we got last night. And you know, we want to make sure that we give it very close attention, especially when we're the lead agency and there's many agencies involved. I don't know, there may be, you know, the traffic study, we may want to forward some of these things to some of the other involved agencies, as it is a coordinated review. We may want to see if they have any comments.
Yeah, I was planning on doing that tomorrow, Mary Lou. I wanted to wait to have our meeting tonight and
Great.
tomorrow, because they sent me all this in digital format, I'm going to email it tomorrow to all the involved agencies and request comment back.
Great.
So,
That is my only comment.
okay.
If I might comment on the water question and conversations with DOH, Skip is right that we haven't yet submitted a plan to DOH for the final water system, but we have submitted, and they've received an application for the improvement of existing water supply, and that allowed us to begin the conversation with Mr. Timrose, and he has been guiding and working with the hydrogeologist on this, Bob Miller, through Bob's process. So there have been conversations, there has been consultation between the hydrogeologist and the DOH. I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Yeah, I have not, I looked at all the plans last night. I didn't dive into all the backup reports. That'll be my weekend project, but I'm confident that you probably have supplied enough information that we can probably move forward with seeker. I'll reserve till, for my opinion anyway, till I read it, but I realize the county doesn't give a final, they don't give comment back or a final permit until after you give them a final mapping, because otherwise they'd be overwhelmed. They're commenting every time. So, but if based on the data you supplied, my guess is we could achieve a seeker determination anyway, and then move forward into the sketch plan level of review, which is the town board, the EEO, and then make a decision on that, and then work toward getting this to the planning board. But you know, we can't make the decision on the EEO until seeker is completed. So that's where all that stands. But thank you for this information. If any other questions come up from board members, you want to email them through me, and I'll gather them all so we don't hit them with a question here and a question there. But take a look, and then once we review all that and have discussion amongst ourselves, then I'll get back to you, Kanan, of when when the next step is.
Sounds great.
I anticipate we're making great progress in moving forward. So. We also should, with a substantial change, we should do a re-review with the county planning board. But I think perhaps it might be best to wait for that till after we do the seeker determination. Anything else for you, Sam?
Nothing further from Creighton Manning.
Okay, great. Well, we thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll be back in the next few weeks to talk about next steps.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Take those back because you guys have them all digitally, and then I can save those for what I have to send. All the agencies. Okay, next item on our agenda is the supervisor's April financial report. It has been filed with the town clerk, and you have a copy of the highway and general funds in front of you. Apologies for the direction. The general fund got stapled. I should have flipped it the other direction, but because I turned it landscape, it's stapled in the wrong direction. So my apologies. The financial report, the revenues for April for the general fund, $49,709.18. Highway fund, $4,350.74. The payments with abstract 4, the general fund was $59,676.47. The highway fund is a change from the audit meeting amount. It is $46,048.71, and we'll be doing a motion to correct that. Street lighting is $0. Escrow account $6,947.97. The total expenditures for April: general fund $127,822.64. Highway fund $93,748.73. Street lighting fund is still $0. And the escrow account, $6,947.97. For the board and for the public, our annual update document, otherwise known as the AUD, was approved at our last meeting for filing with New York State. It is due every year by May 1st. That has been filed with the state. This is a printed copy for you guys. Feel free to look through if you have any questions on it. You certainly ask our accounting firm, Sickler, Torch, and Churchill, did their usual very nice job of it. The good news is we took in more revenue than we budgeted, and we took in more revenue than we spent. We did spend more than we budgeted, but we also, the revenue was considerably higher. The spending was partially because of the Ark of Funding that was not originally in our budget. We did increase the fund balance at the end of it. The highway, the fund balance is a slight decrease, but we had budgeted an amount from the fund balance to give back to the taxpayers, so to lessen taxes. So we use some of the fund balance to offset. So the revenues did not exceed the expenditures. We had planned that. We did pay down a significant amount of our debt. Our debt remains at the start of 2022, approximately $330,000. That is about 150,000 less than the end of 2020. I'm not sure that exact amount, but approximately. We have paid some of that debt already this year. We made the last payment on the highway trucks that we had the 5-year lease on. Those are paid off. We have budgeted to pay off the $100,000 remaining on the street work ban that we took out. So the only ban that I have right now will be the $150,000 that was for the Mill Hook Road culvert. And my plan is to pay off at least $40,000 of that this year. When it comes due in July, we'll see where we stand financially and possibly pay off more of that. But at the end of this year, our outstanding debt will be approximately $100,000 to $110,000. So general fund has no debt. So we are in pretty good shape financially. So, and I'm certain that we will be scored by the comptroller as not in fiscal distress based on our reports. So those will come out in August, I think, those ladies. Next agenda item, town clerk and tax collector report, Kate.
For the month of April, $46,376.98 were collected. The tax collection to date, $6,245,299.25 have been collected, with $941,977 left to collect. Our final payment is due no later than June 1st, 2022.
Okay, highway superintendent, the CHIPS numbers with the approval of the budget in April have been received. There is, it did not decrease. I believe, if I remember correctly, there was a slight increase in the amount. For the public, CHIPS is the amount that federal transportation money that the state funds to every municipality based on the number of miles of road you have. The rate per mile did go down, but the funding seemed to go up. They initiated another program that was not previously there for potholes, if I remember correctly. There's the extreme winter recovery, which deals with snow issues. There's the general highway funds, and then there seems to be a new program that they're doing, a small amount of funding specifically geared toward potholes. So, so we It's money you have to spend before you can get reimbursed. And Jeff is, as he has the last couple of years, planning on spending every penny. You can roll over for a small period of time, but we learned our lesson 2 years ago when they took a bunch of it back. So we're not going to let them roll over. Correspondence report is filed with the board members and the clerk electronically. Fair amount of correspondence, a lot of committee reports, a lot of agendas for committees. So feel free to look through it if you have any questions. Let me know. The COVID report, I did not check the new numbers. I do know that they are rising again. I know in particular of few cases in our township of people who have made me aware that they have been diagnosed positive. So the numbers continue to rise a small amount, but we should all continue to be diligent. Grant updates, the Algerville Firehouse is continuing very nicely, still on track for a substantial completion this summer and a full completion by the fall. The Harold Lipton Community Center, we are still working on getting all the final paperwork for closing out that federal, even though we've occupied this building now for 2 years. Still the paperwork. Federal money is, there are at least 4 bankers boxes worth of paperwork that all have to be made sure they're in the correct order, correct filing, correct folder before we can finally close it. The Boyceville Road Bridge, we received yesterday contracts for the first phase from the DOT. I asked Mary Lou to review those. And you want to give any quick thoughts on that, Mary Lou?
Yeah, they're very standard contracts. When you folks accepted the bid, you gave the supervisor the authority to sign any documents to see, including contracts, to see it through. I've read through them. Mike will have to sign them and I'll have to sign them, but they look fine. Very standard.
Kate will need you to notarize that as well. Yeah, it's federal money through the state, similar to the New York Rising Bridge New York program. For the public, what this is the town applied to New York State under the Bridge New York program for replacement of the Boyceville Road Bridge. We were awarded $1.999 something million. The town is responsible for 5% of the cost. The federal government pays 95%. We are in stage 1, which is the design stage and the general design. We have secured from the list of consultants who are eligible to design. We secured proposals in 7 of the 15 submitted proposals. We're in the process of reviewing them, but we couldn't move to the next step until this contract was received and signed. So now that we have the contract, we can sign that and send that back to him. And then Michael, you and Jeff and I need to review the proposals and select, make a recommendation for a selection of the consultant. So that'll be our next step.
A lot of pictures of bridges in there.
Lots of pictures of bridges. Yep. The local government records management grant, the conversion of the building department records continues. Have you heard anything?
No, I was just thinking, it's been over 60 days of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Half of our building and code enforcement records are being scanned and put into digital format. When that half is completed, they will come back to us, and the other half will go to be scanned. This is through the local government record management grant that we applied for in 2019, but because the pandemic was deferred to 21, we got awarded the grant, and we have until December now, right? We have until December to complete the grant. The JCAP courthouse bathroom grant. I have tried, I have reached out to a number of firms trying to find an architectural firm. I have not even gotten a reply email, let alone a yes or no. So I'm going to continue trying to find somebody. I started with firms that we normally have worked with in the past. I'm going to expand and go to others. It's a busy time for construction. So maybe the wrong time to try to build an ADA bathroom, but we'll endeavor to get some answers. The Ark of Funding, our first round of filing was due April 30th, 2022. It was filed 9 days early. I filed it April 21st. Very easy format to do. Did I share with you a copy of that reporting for the accounting? If not, I will email it to you. My apologies. I printed it out a copy. I didn't remember if I shared it to you. We have spent approximately 140,000. We've committed another 165,000. So about approximately 305,000 of the money is committed. The total amount was close to 700,000. I don't 690 something, I think, sticks in my head. So we still have a significant amount, and we'll have to figure out. We're still sort of waiting to see where broadband heads. If we end up committing some of that money to broadband, that may use up some of that. But we also, because the rules changed, a local government can appropriate up to $10 million or up to your budget. And I think I'm saying it correctly. Against losses, revenue losses during the COVID. Initially, there was a whole very complicated formula that you were required to fill out. Nobody was going to do it because it was so complicated. And they kind of gave up and said, you can take up to $10 million or what your award is as lost revenue. You just have to show what it was spent on. But you can absorb it. Some communities are strictly just absorbing it into their budget. But you can't pay off debt with it. You can't pay off retirement costs. There's a whole string of things you can't do with the money. So we still have 3 more years to, we have still, the second payment will be coming in July of this year. We've received half. Right now it's gaining interest in that. Ulster County updates. A lot of it was covered in the correspondence report. Today was the first meeting of the, and I don't have the name right in front of me, but basically the digital
Citizens Commission.
Thank you, Digital Citizens Commission. You do have it right in front of you. Thank you. This is made up of myself, the supervisor for Town of Olive, councilman from Warsing, somebody from the county executive's office, somebody from the comptroller's office, the comptroller, and a number of the Shandaken town clerk, and a number of local interested people who are all very concerned. It's primarily dealing with broadband, but also dealing with cell service as well. You probably see the trend in the communities named. It's all the people kind of in the 209 and west region that have real challenges with broadband. We're brainstorming. We're working on a map. Michael will talk more about that map when we get to the broadband coverage. But that committee met today. The Transportation Council meets on a monthly basis. Our Bridge New York project is now on their project list, and we're in what's called the TIP, which is the Transportation Improvement Program. The Recycling Committee, Aaron, anything of note that you can think of that came out of that meeting?
Well, not only that I was very inspired by some of what you're talking about proposing in California for the way we think about recycling, but other than that.
The last recycling committee, Aaron and I are both on that committee. It's a countywide committee. There was a guest speaker who is a recycling expert out of California who brought a lot of ideas, some of which wouldn't necessarily work in New York State because of the way California government is established versus New York State government. But a number of good ideas of what they've done in California toward recycling that could either be molded to work here for us or outright just borrowed. So some really good dialogue. The County Trails Committee that also sit on is doing a report back of our state of the county trails report on our local level. I've submitted to OSI the allowance for them to enter our trail, and they and Grievance Peterson, who is the, there's your dog, Mary Lou. Grievance Peterson, who is their consultant, will be assessing the trail and reviewing it against their designs. There is some sewer funding that the county has made available, up to, I think it was up to 500,000. I included in the correspondence packet. It's not in this packet. However, they were looking for projects that are essentially shovel ready. I don't think we have anything near that level to be able to apply for any of this county funding. And that's pretty much it. A reminder, we have 2 public hearings scheduled for May 25th. Our workshop, or excuse me, our audit meeting, which is normally on Thursday, because that day conflicts with Grievance Day, Board of Assessment Review. We've moved our meeting to Wednesday, so because they have to meet on the day that the local law establishes. So our meeting will be on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Currently, there's 2 scheduled public hearings. The first is local law B on accessory dwellings, and the second is on an addendum to the comprehensive plan. The county planning board reviewed both of those applications, both of those referrals last night. The accessory dwelling unit law, they were very happy with the changes we made. We accepted their recommendations. They were also very glowing of the language and said that it will probably become their model accessory dwelling law to share with other townships. So Aaron deserves an awful lot of thanks for putting that together. The comprehensive plan, they had 1 comment, a reminder that it needs to be referred to neighboring towns, which we know, and it happens every time, but you'd be surprised at towns that don't remember. So, and then they did review the moratorium. They had a couple of comments. I'm not going to try to remember them. We'll share the comments when we get them. One was that if we extend it, we said a 6-month moratorium with 2 3-month possible extensions. The required modification is that if we extend past the 6 months, that we share with both the public and our planning board and the county planning board a status report of where we stand at that point. Pretty reasonable request. The other is that advisory comment was that we allow people to pursue applications at their own risk. We would have to talk more about that when we actually get there. That would allow people to move through the planning board process during the moratorium. They couldn't get approval, they couldn't start construction, but they could move through the review process. The at-risk part is if the laws change on the other side, all their work may go nowhere. But the planning board discussed, and it was strictly an advisory comment, it's not a required, that perhaps we allow that. So I'll wait till we get the language of the actual referral. I'm paraphrasing what we heard last night. So that's it on supervisor's update. Liaison reports. I've always put Michael on the spot. Aaron, I'll start with you then.
Sure, well, I'm not, so I'll go first. Okay, so for the ECC, the river sweep cleanup is this Saturday, May 7th, pending weather. So they're getting ready for that. They also, at their last meeting, John shared news that the third Thursdays, which was very successful last year, which is the third Thursday is an educational lecture type series that they're doing through the Zoom format. It's taken on a new life as a new regional group now between the town of Rochester ECC and 3 other neighboring ECCs.
Very nice.
So they're going to be planning that together and putting together a newsletter, and I think that will make it even stronger to have that sort of regional. The zoning board of appeals met last month with a newly seated member. They had 3 applications that they reviewed, 2 for area variances to build, construct garage structures, and then 1 is for a conveyance of acreage from one parcel to another. Both of them are non-conforming, so that's why that's going before the zoning board of appeals. There is 1 vacancy of the alternate position, so I wanted to remind the board that we do have that, and we had people that applied originally. So perhaps we should think about interviewing interested applicants this month so that we can seat that position soon, just in case.
Yep. Thank you for that reminder.
And for the transfer station, we have collected applications for a vacancy of an attendant position there. And hopefully Jeff and I will be conducting interviews next week. So I hope to be bringing a name forward to fill that position.
Yeah.
We got about 12.
Well,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah. And then also this month, hoping to meet the exchange volunteers to talk about improvements to the space. So hopefully we'll be hearing about that this month after we have a chance to plan it out together. And then for I don't really have an update for the code enforcement office. I haven't had a chance to visit them in the past couple weeks. But I did, one thing that came up in the meeting that I had with code enforcement officer Davis, when we were discussing the accessory dwelling unit law, was something that we discussed about the minimum required to have engineered stamped plans. And that was something that he brought up that I'm hoping that we could think about revising and then in this round of revisions that we do, because that would be very helpful to have. Right now, the minimum is 1,500 square feet. So if you're under that, you don't have to have.
When you say the minimum, that's the state's minimum?
That is, I think that's the state's minimum. That's what I found, but I think I wanted to talk to Mary Lou the next couple of weeks about how we might update that language in our laws and what we would need to do that.
Okay. Also, one other thing for the public, we have a new part-time fire inspector who started. That's okay. So if you see another person, so his name is Michael Panic. Thank you. So we now have a full-time code enforcement officer and 2 part-time fire inspectors who work 15 hours a week. Well, usually they work 14, work 2 days a week each. They were working together for the first few weeks to get Michael up to speed. This past week they shifted, so now they're working opposite days. So we have a fire inspector 4 days a week now. And it's showing in the catching up on things that were slipping in the past because of staffing, so not enough staffing. Could you also, Aaron, actually, never mind, I'll email Alyssa myself. There's a state report that was due May. I just want to make sure it actually got filed, because last year, Becky had filed it before she left, so I wanted to make sure that it did get filed. I had emailed it over to them, but I didn't follow up to make sure it got filed. So, Adam.
The constabulary court remains mostly open. The constabulary answered 16 direct calls for service. Other duties in the month of April 2020. They included 9 neighbor-to-neighbor and quality of life complaints, 5 residential traffic complaints over Cherrytown Road, Whitfield Road, Minnetonka, and Rochester Center. 3 environmental complaints on Rochester Center, Cherrytown Road, and Upper Cherrytown Road. 15 new building department violations. 0 new court cases were open. 9 court proceedings remain open, and 0 court proceedings were closed. This month, they had a very variety of calls for service. They included many complaints regarding traffic speeds and erratic operation of vehicles on various town roads. Garbage dumping complaints continue to occur with more frequency. These include large items being left on the roads. As the warmer weather approaches, they're seeing complaints from residents regarding short-term rental properties rising with nicer weather as more people visit the town. One of the things that they were saying was they have got a lot of building department violations for the short-term transient rentals. Hard time delivering them. The owners are there, so what they started to do was hand them to the short-term transient tenant renters, and that seems to get a lot of action going as the renters turn it over to the Airbnb. So again, if people have Airbnbs, short-term transient rentals that are in violation, we will be handing out the violations to the tenant if we can't find the.
And the law allows us, we have to personally serve them, but the law allows us to personally serve it to anybody who is at that residence.
But again, it seems to be effective, to say the least. Neighbor complaints.
Sorry, you know, are they unpermitted?
It's a host of things, everything from, and there are a couple unpermitted, a couple that didn't be, that haven't been up to date yet. A host of things, but again, they're on top of it with the.
And these are not fines; these are step 1, which is a correct remedy the situation notice. So there's a certain amount of time with this service to rectify the problem. So
Neighbor-to-neighbor complaints have increased this month. Most have been diffused without further action necessary. Other are ongoing and should be remedied this month. Due to the apparent slowdown of the COVID-19 pandemic and the variants, they're beginning to have more direct contact with complaints. That comes from our Constable Rich Miller. It was a busy month with the rec department. Ashley says the recreation department will be hosting its spring fling barbecue at the town park on May 20th, free of charge. Call to sign up. The rec department at 845-626-2115. Earth Day was a smashing success with the 66 volunteers who participated. They appreciate everything that you do for the community. A special thanks to County Legislator Chris Hewitt for making pizza for the volunteers in our brick oven right here behind the community center. The town of Rochester KDA basketball program has concluded. It was truly a wonderful season. More participants than ever before. Like a lot of youth sports, we've seen the decline over the years. They've had more people than they've ever had before, and most are within the age. As a matter of fact, they said that everybody is of age, that should they return, it'll be even bigger again next year. Special thanks to the folks that run it, including Mike Smith, Debbie Ball, Howie Ball, Chris Ball, for all their hard work. And Conway Hamill was Volunteer of the Year as a head coach, did an excellent job. Here at the community center, the adult paint class on April 27th was a huge success. 20 participants. Their classes are extremely popular, and we look forward to hosting more in the future. And you can see some of the work here around the room. They were able to host a sports equipment drive in partnership with local Little League. and they were able to help out several families in the community. And it looked like there was a tremendous amount of donations that they were able to give away. Just in summary, it says April was a very busy month for the rec department. Looking forward to May and everything it has in store. So thanks again to the rec department.
You know, I know we don't know anymore, but you know, on the Earth Day pickup, how much we collected? So, just want to thank our highway department for their assistance on the Mondays after Earth Day for going around and collecting all the bags, getting it to the transfer station. When we had the scale, we could weigh that. We no longer have the scale, so I didn't know if they were counting bags or anything like that. But I know there were. I drove around over the weekend and saw quite a few orange bags waiting to be picked up. Michael.
Okay, so for KFAS, the numbers for March, I have been able to get April numbers yet. They had 61 calls, so 56 responded to. That's a 91.8% response rate. They did have a piece of equipment break on them that they're looking to replace. It was a special stretcher they have that cracked, unfortunately. They also have a few other large purchases that they're looking to make. One of them is a power lifter to make it easier to load stretcher into the rig. I also discussed with Mr. Nurko the possibility of stopping by to one of the regular meetings. So he thought that was a great idea. So I plan to schedule a time to do that with him. I'm also going to suggest something similar with multi-purpose aid unit. Another thing we discussed was trying to find ways to help educate residents about the local EMS squads. And I know that we have the website on our agenda for later tonight, so I think it would be great if as part of that redesign, we can find ways to increase awareness of the EMS squad, the fire district, the services they provide to the town, especially as we move forward with discussions about the ambulance improvement districts. I also suggested that it might be helpful, since Supervisor Baden is working with the county EMS committee, that we might possibly want to sit down collectively and talk about some of their perspectives on the issues, see if there's anything that we should possibly bring to the county's attention and ideas we might have. So I think that's something that I'd also like to help coordinate with the squads. I'm planning on linking up with Chairman Biddy from Marble County First Aid Unit. Tomorrow we're supposed to talk. Their numbers from March, total dispatches for 46, and they got 42 out. It's a 96% response rate. They had one response that was in Rochester's area of coverage. In April, they were 40 for 40, with again, one response in Rochester area of coverage. Related to the ambulance improvement district, I submitted a list of parcels to Supervisor Baden and as well, which was forwarded to the town assessor. So I know that they're working for some of the parcels that actually will stretch across both districts to see how that breaks or how that potentially would break down. A good conversation with the EMS chief over in the town of Olive, Yvonne Fuller. She was extremely generous with her time and offered to provide any help she can as we go through the process of looking at the ambulance improvement districts. I was put in touch with her by Aaron Santillo from the Ackwood Fire District, so I appreciate him recommending that. No additional updates for the Ackwood Fire District, although I still need to find time to get together with them to look at the draft map that I put together of local draft sites in town. I also still think I'd like as a board for us to look at ways to educate people about the importance of proper identifications of house numbers. I think I'm probably guilty of this as well. It's not easy to find our house, which I learn every time somebody tries to come visit us. And then on the broadband, I did get some numbers. They were not as good as I thought to just do the work along the road. I can share those with the board. I want to look at it because they're over several emails. There were a few specific addresses that we had brought to their attention that they said they thought should be serviceable. So I think there was one on Upper Tarrytown Road. We should maybe reach back to that resident and see if there's anything we need to do to help broker that conversation. I also asked about some of the gaps that we had. They were not gaps that they had on their internal maps, but they did say that for areas where there are currently no houses, because I was asking the question about, can we just extend along the road in case we have development that happens along those roads in the future. They said they wouldn't do that because they would need to know what the houses would look like before they do that expansion. So I think Dunn Farm Road, I know, is one that comes to mind. There's a large gap. It's open farmland at this point. There's no houses on it, but I was curious if they would consider extending longer. Yeah. So it sounds like that's not currently a possibility, but we are at least making progress in getting some more data points in terms of possible costs.
Well, that's a far cry from where we were 5 years ago, so thank you.
Yep.
Um,
That's it for me.
Charlotte,
Housing committee is still not formed, but hopefully by the end of this meeting, we'll have passed the motion. We will have form our housing committee, so hopefully next time we'll have a report for us.
and to fill you in, the county did extend, well, not extend, an offer. They hired a new planning staff member. He is originally from the Rosendale area and by way of the West Coast, who is moving back to the area. Has been a transportation planner out there primarily, but has experience, and his role with the county will be about 75% housing, about 10 to 15% transportation, and then the other 10% would be whatever, generalized things, projects, but will be his primary goal will be housing. So and they're especially in working with the local communities is the primary focus of this person. So I'm sure you guys will get to know each other very, very well. And I did tell Dennis that. I said we have a councilwoman who's waiting for to start, and they will definitely be talking. So they're kind of ready for us as well. Okay. Assessors report. Received this from the assessor. He's completed the tentative assessment roll that was due to be as of May 1st. A copy is available in the assessor's roll. It is also available on the county website. It can be accessed through the town website. On the bottom left corner is a link that says assessment roll. When you go there, you can go to the town of Rochester link through the county, and there's a search engine. You can put in name. You can put in any words you want. It will search and find that word. You can find your own property. We are reduced. Our equalization rate was reduced to 72%. Where that comes into effect is when it, for multiple jurisdiction taxing, say, for example, school taxes, where it's us, Marbletown, and Rosendale, and a little bit of Warsing, and I think might even be towns. The equalization rate is then applied to raise to the market value. The good news is we went down 28 points from 100 to 72. Everybody's went down considerably. I'm hoping, thinking it will have a marginal impact on school taxes. Grievance Day is scheduled for Thursday, May 26th from 4 to 8 p.m. The board will be meeting at the community center, and there is attached information for the Grievance Day. And is this up on the website? Okay. We'll make sure we get this up on the, basically, if you wish to present a case to the board, you must contact the assessor's office to schedule a time to meet with the board of review members. Grievance Day will be held here at the community center from 4 to 8 p.m. Applications should be submitted to the assessor's office by Thursday, May 19th, so that they can be reviewed to make sure there's no incomplete or missing information. As I said earlier, the tentative assessment roll is available online, or a copy can be viewed in the assessor's office. And the assessor will be available to answer questions Monday through Wednesday between 8:30 and 11:30 a.m. and Thursday and Friday between 1 and 4 p.m. By calling the assessor's that number 626-0920. He also asked to remind that the assessments for this role are based on the market value as of July 1, 2021. So if you're reviewing sales, you should only use sales prior to July 1, 2021. Please make sure the application is fully completed and all documentation to support the estimate of value is attached. You may be required to provide additional information requested by the Board of Assessment Review. And if you have any questions about the application or about the grievance process, reach out to the assessor's office. The change in assessment, the total assessed value of the town was increased 1.9% from 2021 to 2022 due to new construction, splits of properties, and renovations. As Councilman Coleman said, the assessor is working with myself and Councilman Coleman to estimate the information necessary for the town of Rochester ambulance districts. He will also be conducting property inspections on new construction as they are completed and at the request of property owners who feel the data may not be correct. So busy time for our assessor's office.
Mike, do you know if those last maps work? Is it not?
They did. They did. Yes, that explained exactly what he needed. Planning board report and ZBA attendance reports for the board. They're filed quarterly with us. Those are in your packet. The planning board has a public hearing scheduled on Monday for the Lucky Petroleum. That is the gas station across the street from the Indian Valley Little League field, entering into Kerhonkson. They are, you may have noticed they've been closed. They're proposing to remove the current building, the convenience store, remove the gas station tanks. They're going to build a new center. It will look somewhat similar to the Valero that is at Queens Highway. It is the same architect. The level of lighting under the canopy, in the words of the county planning board last night, were the lowest lighting levels they've ever seen on a gas station. I know the planning board worked hard with the engineer to lower the levels of the lighting under that. So if anybody is interested or concerned about any of that construction, the public hearing is Monday night. They have 6 applications, I believe, agenda for Monday, and that is one of them. I think that's all the reports. Mary Lou, I neglected, because I've added the presentation, I neglected to put attorney report on the agenda. Do you have anything to report to us?
No, I thought we didn't do that last month either. I thought that we were just gonna have me report as we discuss.
Okay,
items.
okay, and maybe that's why I didn't put it on, but I just wanted to check. Board member time, is there anything board members want to bring up?
I have 2 things I wanted to bring up. One is I've been very impressed by the level of public engagement we've been having, which I think is great. I wanted to say for the public that I think we've had a lot of special meetings scheduled and special hearings scheduled. So I wanted to clarify that we have 3 regularly scheduled meetings a month that don't get noticed. So we meet the first Thursday of every month. The third Wednesday of every month is a workshop meeting. And then we have a bill signing meeting the last Thursday of every month. So I've gotten several questions about the meetings that aren't getting noticed. But that's what it is that we set the meetings on January, in early January. So we always have those meetings. In addition to that, or public hearings get noticed.
Right. And those meetings, the regular meetings were noticed at the beginning of the year.
Right.
And then I also wanted to say, on the town board page, on the website, all of us have our email addresses and phone numbers for how we can get reached. So I know with my phone number, you can call or text me at that number and I can respond. I just wanted to say that because it's great how much engagement we've been having.
You want to mention the weekly calendar?
Oh, yes, and on the main homepage right now, there is, oh wait, where is it? Oh, it's
Up in the header.
It's up in the header. It says weekly meeting calendar. It's below the boards and commissions. If you click on that, on every Sunday,
Friday
every Friday, Supervisor Baden updates that
for the
with
following.
for the following week with what meetings we're going to have and how you can, if it's a public hearing, if there's a Zoom link for that. The second thing I wanted to bring up is we worked, last month we passed the 2022 code enforcement fees. And I think we made a lot of clarifications to that. It was recently brought to my attention that with some of the changes we did, that there are some things now that are more expensive maybe than other more complicated things, because of the square footage. We have that note that says where residential and public use share one building story of occupation, the public use calculation shall be on the entire square footage of that floor. Mary Lou, you had that in the research that you did. And that's why we included that. So I wanted to mention this to the board and offer to meet with the code enforcement office and look at some of these fees and make sure that what we're charging is in line.
Well, we didn't change any fees from
Right.
the previous year. What we did is we clarified
Yes.
the fire inspection, but
Yes.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, like one of them now is more, and to do that would cost more than a bed and breakfast.
Okay,
So for just like a portion of a,
but if we need to amend the
Yeah.
section of it.
so I wanted to make sure we're fair in that. And Mary Lou, I wanted to reach out to you maybe outside the meeting and get the source of that. I think you told
Yeah,
me.
it's state code says that when it's public, when it's like a public and private mixed and they're on the same floor, you have to include the entire floor.
Okay.
But when they're an upstairs, downstairs, if the apartment's upstairs and the business is downstairs, you don't have to include the apartment.
Okay,
That's
thanks.
under the state building code.
But I just wanted to bring that up. I wanted to maybe look at that and perhaps come with an amendment. I wanted to talk to the code enforcement office and see how they are applying this stuff.
Okay. Anything else?
I just wanted to update you guys on our 4-Hers that we're looking
Oh,
to.
yes, thank you.
I reached out to the mom who had emailed you, that you forwarded the email to me. And they were going to this past weekend. I'm not sure if they grabbed one or not. They were just, with one, I told them that they could take one picnic table or bench at a time to work on 2 local 4-H girls that are gonna redo a lot of picnic tables and pavilion at the, and they were very happy and excited to start their project.
Great, thank you.
I had 2 quick things.
Sure.
So the first thing is I'd like it if as a board, we can find a way to make ourselves available to residents for more Q&A type things. I know we've had public comments, people have questions. I don't think we need to necessarily have it as a structured thing where it happens every meeting, but I think it'd be great if we could pick some meetings where we can do formal Q&A or formal Q&A. Especially as we're looking at moratorium, and there's going to be a lot of land use type stuff that's not necessarily everybody's strong suit. I think it might be helpful if we can sit there and just have questions about things that are being proposed, or some more informational sessions. So there's a little bit of back and forth. I think that'd be helpful. I think other people on the board probably agree with that. The other thing I know continues to come up for me, I've had several people contact me, the issues around campers and RVs and possibly looking at that for campsite, change the campsite law. I know we're not considering that under short-term transient rental. I still think that's something that's important to people. I'd like to talk with building departments, see if there are reasonable accommodations to ensure that it's both safe and that we're not necessarily impacting people that were relying on that for additional income. So hopefully we can start to address them in coming weeks. That's all I have.
Next, we have our section on public comment. If there is anyone who wishes to speak, just to reiterate, it's not a question and answer session, it's public comment. We're here to listen to you. So if anybody would care to make a comment tonight, yes, please.
I'm not very with all the arguments I made only to Erin, not to bother everybody, but I'd like to clarify regarding what maybe you said. Okay, so it's about the new fire inspection fee. That note refers to public use. Once you establish that the retail store is not in the category where you talk about public assembly, you cannot bring now public use. We don't have public use. It's a different segment. You yourself, Marilu, I'm sorry, you said a retail store is not in the category of public assembly, and we do not qualify. You put now in the new law, you list all the activities which qualify for the public assembly. You cannot use the word public now and bring us to public use. This contradicts everything which happened for years, and everything Jerry Davis said from the very beginning, that we have to pay only for the commercial side. You cannot punish now a corner, a building, because we don't have a second floor now. It's totally mixed use, so it doesn't work. We end up paying more than we paid when we did only commercial. It's totally, during the month in December or so, it was discussed many times, and it was said during these meetings that the fire inspector is supposed to inspect, and we have to pay only for the commercial portion. We are not supposed to let the fire inspector come to our bedroom and to our kitchen and so on and so forth. It's not public use. You have to do more research on something specific for retail store. You yourself said a retail store that is not in the other category, the public assembly. It's not public use. It's not public use. I'm going to. I had to find out. I emailed Erin, and he's very nice and very. There are still issues. After 1 year since we had this problem, there are still 3 issues to be solved. Task force number is still not updated in the field. The report all of you talked about in December last year to know what businesses paid what during the pandemic is not ready or doesn't appear. And now with new fees, we don't insert. We simply don't insert. I'm sorry, please call me.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Yes, I have an open letter to the town board. Thanks in advance for your time and consideration. My name is Blake Arrowwood, and I live here in Nashville. It's been my home for almost a decade now, and I can't imagine living anywhere else. Having spent the last 9 years building up Arrowwood Farm Brewery, it has been a privilege to develop a community space within the town. In the beginning of 2021, I stepped away from that business to move on with new endeavors. Listening to the last town board meeting, I was encouraged to see the granary project presentation and the possibility of further economic development in downtown area. Identifying the property just next door, 11 Towpath Road, as one of the last remaining commercial spaces makes for the very promising possibility for a groundswell of economic development that would be a true catalyst for revitalizing our downtown. In looking for continued growth in Accord, I'd always viewed property at 11 Towpath with dormant potential. It's been quite the festering sore on the downtown landscape for the last decade. However, there always seemed to be a possibility for rehabilitation, but a lingering rumor remained that the site was contaminated. After learning the county had foreclosed on the property last November and that it would be up for auction this spring, I spent the winter months researching with due diligence. With a formal request to the DEC, it was very encouraging to see the site had not, in fact, been contaminated. The extensive environmental assessment and analytical report confirmed that there was no toxic waste on the site. The spill was clean. With that information, and after consultation with the contractor and engineer, the site continued to look very promising. That led to developing a proposal that included renovation of both the commercial and the residential. The residential space with 4 individual apartments was immediately identified as a favorable choice for affordable housing in Accord. The commercial space with 3 individual units would provide the most ideal place to develop local commerce and contribute to the renaissance and revitalization of historic downtown. When I learned that 11 Towpath was pulled from the county auction for closure, I was disappointed. But after speaking with the county and learning that the residential portion was actually held for affordable housing, and that it would be a part of the county's newly created Housing Development Corporation. The vision for the property seemed to be aligned. Digging in a little further and speaking with the county planning board, it appears that they do not have interest in the commercial space at 11 Towpath, rather only the residential for affordable housing. There are currently 3 separate commercial spaces at 11 Towpath that would offer many opportunities for development. The vision would be to fully rehabilitate the property, renovating it inside and out. Along with updating the building, the entire outside and surrounding area will be brought back to life by thoughtful landscaping and hardscape. The property offers ample amount of parking that can be open for various downtown businesses. 11 Towpath really is at the heart of downtown. It's certainly in rough shape now, but with time, effort, and vision, I do believe it can be a true gem that shines bright in the town center. I wanted to share this with you all today, bring forward the thought of real potential and possibility for injecting new life and vitality into our downtown. I hope this is just the beginning of a conversation and opens up a dialogue for exploring all the opportunities at 11 Towpath Road and its ability to help bring downtowns back. Thanks again for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else? Tina? Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead. No, I was pointing to Tina, but that's okay. That's okay.
I'm Carol Krause. I'm a volunteer at the Rochester Food Pantry. I'm also on the board as the outreach coordinator. We are most interested in pursuing the elder or the seniors in the community. My understanding that about 3 of every 20 households experiences food insecurity within the year in Ulster County. So I know you have a form for the elder care constituency that is subject to change, but it's my understanding that change hasn't been made, but the change would be allowing third-party contact in some way with the elder care folks. And I'm here to say, I hope we will allow that. We have so much to share with the Rochester Food Pantry. As you probably know, that tons of grocery or tons of fresh produce from more and more farms, and this statewide, we're enriched to the point that we want to serve more. The other thing is, though we don't advertise it, we deliver as needed. So that might be something that we help with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark?
Mark,
Tina.
I'm gonna be long.
I'll go.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I just want to say, that at last week's moratorium public hearing we had a lot of support for the moratorium, and I had the pleasure of sitting on the Ulster County Planning Board meeting last night for the public hearing portion, and expressed my interest on that. And I think that it's based on the town's feedback from last week's meeting, and as Aaron mentioned, we're getting a lot of public input, which is great, that we need to push this forward and make some decisions on it. I think that's important. Not to have a back and forth in a Q&A, but I was not aware that the town board is the lead agency on the granary project and or the Walnut Brook project. If that is true, is that something that people are aware of? Because I was not. And then finally, additionally, at our last week meeting for the public hearing, we had a lot of support for the town planner. And I don't see that on the agenda for tonight's conversation. So I think that it would be nice to have an update for what that is and when that is going to be put in place and how that looks and when that person will be started, because clearly we had a lot of support for it. And it's something that we should not.
It's on there.
Is it? I
It's on
didn't.
there.
Okay. Otherwise, that's all I have. Thank you.
Sorry, that wasn't an answer, but it's on the agenda.
Hey, I'll see you.
Tina,
I'm just gonna piggyback on her for a second and then go to my issue. Maybe with the new web developer, there could be something where people can help seniors sign up for home deliveries or something like that. A thought. So I was no surprise that I'm here about travel trailers for SPRs. This time I actually wrote something. So by eliminating RVs and travel trailers, I'm not sure if the board has factored in the complete harm that has done to people like me. Besides unfairly depriving constituents of needed income, the Airbnb guests are prominently low to middle class people that rent out the travel trailers, coming from New York City areas to enjoy our area, and they spend money here helping out local restaurants and stores, providing them with much needed income to rebuild. Also, the county business tax income and deprives local workers to supply and refresh the Airbnb space. I know personally, I hired several people. I think some of them wrote to you from our town. I get my Airbnb, well, I have my travel trailer pumped every Monday by Hudson Valley Septic. So I came up with I'm not a planner, but I came up with a petition, and I know in local law 2, you had an area for RV and travel trailers. But I think there was some concerns, so I hope I can address those concerns. And don't know if you want a copy of the petition. Over 42 people have signed it so far. I know that's not a lot, but I'm just starting, and I'm not going to stop. So we are the residents of the town of Rochester would like our voices heard in the decision of STR on the issue of RV travel trailers, further known as trailers. We believe they should be allowed to be used for STR purposes as long as they meet density requirements and the property is owner occupied. Travel trailers are considered safe as many as thousands of people travel, live in them, and part-time and full-time across the United States. The town can make sure, 1, that removal of sewage can be proved by the owner. 2, that smoke, carbon monoxide, fire detection, fire extinguishers are in place inside the trailer along with an egress window. 3, that the owner gets approval and permits to run an STR and is placed under the same guidelines as the other STRs that are permitted in the town. Local law 2 covered it and was removed. We would like to see local law 2 section F be revisited and added to the town of local law 3 for STR approval. And then I quote local law 2, the alternative structure dwelling shall conform with the density requirements for the parcel zoning district, the securing of a special permit from the planning board, and the securing of a short-term resident permit. And then people signed it. I've talked to my neighbors. My neighbors each, did you get letters from my neighbors?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure the time frame you're speaking about.
Today, did you get any letters from?
I didn't check after 3:30. So I hadn't had anything prior to 3:30.
All right, well,
If you have something you want to submit to the clerk, that's the appropriate way to go. So,
will she read them? Because I was told to submit, they had to submit them before 4 PM.
I think they were submitted to Nicole.
So it's, you know, we're not going to read outside people's. If you want to read them, you can. But it's not. Yeah, it's not about. It's not a. Yeah,
Sorry.
it's okay.
Wasn't so strong.
Yeah. No, I thought you were speaking about the petition. The petition should go to.
Oh, all right, I'll give the petition. Dear Sir, Madam, my name is P. Adam Welch. I, along with my wife, Calliope Welch, reside at 219 Queens Highway, Ashford. I'm ready to voice my support for an Airbnb variance proposed for Peanut and Russell and Thomas Russell at 300 Queens Highway, Ashford, New York, 12404. Calliope and I have been next door neighbors with the Russells for over a year now and have noticed zero noises or disturbances from either tenants or the Russells alike. Calliope and I have also seen the RV trailer used for Airbnb at 300 Queens Highway, and it looks to be well maintained and is fully operational condition. Also, everyone at the property has been very respectful and a modern neighbor. My wife and I are in favor of ventures that bring more money to our local businesses and economy. Having out-of-towners stay at Airbnb means that they will be visiting our restaurants, local shops, improving the lives of people in our community. Please grant this variance request. Thank you for your kind consideration. P. Adam Wall. Alyssa Trutman, going to whom may concern to the town of Rochester. This letter is in support of Tina Burton Russell. I'm writing to advocate for the use of RVs and travel trailers to be allowed to be short-term rentals, STRs, on private property, including on her property. Allowing short-term rentals does not impact the quality of life in the neighborhood. I'm in a problem with this. Tina and others carefully vet the individuals that will rent the allocated space and make potential fear hazards far outweigh the local benefits. The entire enterprise also helps the entire family create a viable living. And I have to hold it up one more time. Pardon. It's your email
Mine.
and yours.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, I mean, if you, yeah.
I found it.
Okay.
Allowing the short-term rentals does not impact the quality of life in the neighborhood nor the community serves as benefits to the community. Tina tends to have a niche group of individuals interested in learning more about small farming as well as horse and chicken care and what it takes to do all this. Tina opens her home in philanthropy through education and providing upstate access to respectful younger individuals at a more affordable rate and gets them excited about a more sustainable way of living. In doing so, Tina also improves the local economy for her STR small business. As her STRs shop and eat locally when they are here, and are supportive of the community as well. Tina and others carefully vet the individuals that will rent the allocated spaces on their property. One great aspect of that STRs is that if ever a person turned out to be less than respectful, Tina can reduce the length or cancel their stay or short term. Therefore, any potential fear hazards far outweighed by the local benefits to the economy and community. The entire enterprise also helps the entire family create a viable living and self-employment, which recent studies have suggested has tangible positive economic impacts not only on wage and employment, but also on per capita income growth and poverty reduction. In finding creative ways to operate her small business, Tina curates an experience for individuals who might otherwise not have access to it. Please support Tina Burton Russell and others' use of RVs and travel trailers for their STR small business on their own property. Thank you for your consideration. Alyssa Tretman, MAP, MPH, and SW. I think my main point is there are things that the town can consider. There's an RVIA that is the standard for, it's just like 200 inspection points if the trailer has an Ark sticker. Most trailer parks require that for trailers to come into the park. That means it's an inspection for fire, electric, and safety. So there are things that we can work around to meet on common ground. If safety is a concern, if sewage is your concern, like I can prove that somebody comes to my camper every week. You know, like there's things you can require of people in order to have it. And I think it should only be an owner occupied property. So there's not trailers all over afterwards. That's it.
Thank you. So now, if you want to give those to the clerk or the petition that people signed, so apologies, I was confused when you were asking. So, and I will check my email. I did not see it, but
I ain't sending it to you.
no,
I
but
did
you
not
said,
tell you.
yeah, no. Okay.
I
Um,
did check mine and I didn't.
I don't have it. I'm not sure who spelled my new last name.
I did what I was given by
Well,
Councilman Coleman.
you, if Kate gets it, we'll all get it. So it doesn't matter whether you.
Okay.
So Kate gets it.
I got the email.
Okay.
He gets the star.
A couple of quick things before we go into, oh, is there anyone else who wants to speak? I'm sorry. I thought we were done, but I just wanted to announce Memorial Day. The town will be doing a Veterans Park ceremony at a time to be determined. The reason I'm saying a time to be determined, the fire district has decided that they are going to go back to the more traditional type of parade. Historically, they have organized it. They're going, from what I understand, they're looking at a parade route, the old route from Revenue Markets next to Saunderskill to the firehouse, which is the old route that they used to use for a lot. I don't know what time they're starting. My plan is to have a Veterans Park ceremony prior to the parade. Once I find out timing, we will get that announcement out there. But I just want to let people know. And to the town board members, I'm sure we will have town vehicles in the parade. Any of you who would like to be a part of that, Adam and I have ridden on the back of the utility truck many times now. The other thing I wanted to just remind people, Tuesday, May 17th, yes, is school board vote. It was really disturbing to read in the Freeman that there are 4 vacant seats and there was 1 candidate running, which means the school board will have to take write-ins for the next 3. And if there are not 3 different write-ins, then they will have to come up with somebody. As a person who served on the school board before I was supervisor, it is a thankless job. By law, you cannot be paid. People think you are paid. By law, you cannot be paid except reimbursed of travel expenses, mileage, but not to go back and forth to meetings, if you go to a conference, if you go those things. So I understand why people don't, but I just want to point out that it is the largest by far taxation of our property taxes. And having been involved with it for 1.5 years, I had to step down, but when I became supervisor, there's a law that you cannot be a town supervisor and be on the school board. A council member could be on the school board. A mayor could be on the school board. A highway superintendent could be on the school board. The town supervisor is named specifically. My guess is somewhere somebody upset somebody and they wrote a law. So anyway, just doing my part. Please get out and vote for the yes or no. I'm not advocating which way you should vote, but please. It's sad when you see a turnout of 700 or 800 people out of probably 10 to 12,000 potential voters. So just please get out there. If you know of somebody who is even remotely interested in serving on the school board, please let them know. It was just really kind of upsetting if there's only one person running, and that person ran when I ran and is now in their third term. So that means they've served 6 years and they're running for another 3. So I'll get off my soapbox, but moving on to resolutions. Action on the minutes. Asking for a resolution to accept the minutes of April 7th, 2022 regular meeting, April 20th, 22 workshop meeting, April 28th, 2022 audit meeting, April 20th, 2022 public hearing, April 28th, 2022 public hearings, April 22nd, 2022 special meeting, and April 28th, 2022 special meeting as submitted.
I'll make the motion.
Second. Kate, thank you for a really great job, a lot of meetings. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. And I'm remiss, I need to say this. This week is Town Clerk, Municipal Clerk Appreciation Week. And I want to thank Kate and her staff for all they do for the town of Rochester. So thank you very much. Next, a resolution amending approval of abstract 4 of 2022. The Town of Rochester Town Board authorizes amendment of resolution number and 202. Thank you. 202 of 2022, approving payment of abstract 4 of 2022 with the following corrections. Highway fund is $46,048.71. That's replacing the approved $46,308.32. The reason being is a voucher that was in there had been identified as having been paid the previous month. So I'm going to ask for that.
I'll make that motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Next, a resolution accepting donation of goods. The Town of Rochester Town Board accepts donation of chocolate bunnies, jelly beans, peeps, and cookies from Jessica Knapp in the amount of $172.28 for the Easter egg hunt.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained.
Aye.
Okay.
Thanks, Mom.
Yes. Thank you to your mom. Acceptance of donations. I am going to ask for an amendment to this because it was a donation that I didn't have the paperwork on. So the Town of Rochester Town Board accepts donation of $2,500 from the Michael Oremus Foundation for the summer program 2022 and $111.39 from St. Pauli Textile.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Discussion, the Michael Oremus Foundation every year makes this donation to us toward our summer program in memory of Michael. We thank them every year for this assistance. This helps us with our field trips, with our transportation, in many other ways. So thank you. And thank you for the St. Pauli Textile people. They're the people who have the clothing drop out here, and every month we get a portion of their receipts of what they get for recycling that material into other uses, and every month it is approximately that much. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Next, on request of the Recreation Department, the Town of Rochester Town Board approves use of the Harold Lifton Community Center for the scheduling of 2 adult paint classes. Funding to come from adult recreation supplies and materials budget.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. We've done it now, I think, 3 months. It's been incredibly successful and
Sold out in the waiting list. You can see some of the projects.
Could we, oh, I was. I was wondering, is there a way, can you just approve them to have the paint glosses for the remainder of the year? Do you have to do it every month?
Well, the problem is this was not included in their original budget line, so we should be monitoring it against the costs to do this. because at some point, we either may want to consider charging for it only because it was not budgeted for. So the answer is yes, we do, because every time is another expenditure. And we need to monitor it against the budget line to see where it's going. So if they had presented this as part of their yearly plan, then the answer would be no. But because it was an idea they came up with after the fact, we have to say yes. We have to prove it. So, and I don't know if they're going to continue it over the summer, because then they'll be busier with these things. So I think it's, so they'll just continue to ask.
I was just
us.
wondering.
Yeah, that's the reason, because it wasn't in there. They are going to put it in next year's budget,
Okay.
and then we will, next year we won't have to. Is that similar?
I had the same question, and that maybe for next year's budget, if they have like a miscellaneous event, so that they could have one, because I know they come up with ideas
Yeah.
in the middle of the year. And
Yep.
Yeah.
Also actually budgets like the sub.
Yeah.
You know, so there's never any room in there.
So. And if we want to approve a miscellaneous budget line, we can. But right now,
We
as
don't have
Adam
it.
said, every event was budgeted. The budget is set for the events that they budgeted for. So that's why these additions have to be approved by us. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Okay. Next, this is a request for appointment. I included for the new board members, the resolutions establishing the Trails Committee. We have a request, the Town of Rochester Town Board appoints Brian Bookbinder to the Trails Committee. I'm going to make that resolution. A second.
I'll second.
Brian is a local resident who has been named the steward. He lives on Upper Cherrytown Road, and the section of the trails up there that are under the DEC control that are managed by the Palisades. I'm getting the name wrong, I know I am, but it's basically the Palisades Trail Commission, Interstate Trail Commission.
Interstate Park Commission.
Thank you. Brian is the volunteer ranger for those trails. Back last fall, he and I spoke, and he was interested in getting involved. We both kind of forgot about it, and he emailed me last week and said, hey, remember we had that conversation? I'd really like to get on the trail committee. What do I do? And I said, send me an email, ask. So right now, the trail committee consists of myself, Adam, Quinn O'Connor is the chair, Stephen Rice, and now Brian will be another member. There have been a couple of people who've expressed interest. There were some people who were appointed who've dropped off over the years. And right now, there is not a lot of work, but as we're doing more work, the Trails Committee will get more involved. So anyway, I wanted you all to know how it was established. It's established as 9 members right now. So with all that being said, any questions or discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Okay. Kate, I'll get you his contact info. I don't know if he needs to be sworn in as a volunteer committee. Okay. Okay.
On the next one, can we do it as presented?
We can.
Okay.
We can. So, so on presentation by Councilwoman Spisa, establishing a housing committee as presented, because the resolution is all written out in the agenda, everybody can see. Charlotte, I think you should make that resolution.
Sure.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Okay. Charlotte, if you want to put together something that I can get out in the newspapers and on the website, looking for people, that would be appreciated. Next, authorizing the update of the elder care program form on presentation by Councilwoman Adowan and Spisa. The Town of Rochester Town Board approves recommended changes to the Town of Rochester Elder Care Program form. Do I have that motion? Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. The additions, I didn't print it in color, but the additions are the 3 yes or no's that are on the bottom. People filling it out would have the option to say yes or no, I would like to receive non-emergency visits. Yes or no, I would be interested in receiving information about additional programs offered within the town of Rochester. And yes or no, I give permission for the town of Rochester Recreation Department to notify me of upcoming events or programming currently happening in the town of Rochester. So the reason behind this is we cannot divulge people's information just by signing up for the elder care program. If they okay this, then we can share their information with agencies like the food pantry.
This would not be sharing their information. This is allowing the elder care
Oh,
program to
yes, thank
distribute
you.
information for them.
For us,
That
for
breaks
that, yeah.
confidentiality to give out their information to anywhere but the program they're signed up.
Okay, so we can send them
So we can
information. on
send
the
them
food.
information.
I'm
we cannot
sorry.
Give their
It's
information.
in
Yeah, that's why the wording is
Okay.
the way it is in here. And it wouldn't be in effect until like, until they sign the new
Right.
form with it on. here,
Right, we'll have to
Which I
go.
talked to Rich about. Rich is happy to start bringing them around with
Okay.
his normal visits and having people update their forms.
So we'll go to the
Yeah.
people who have already filled it out
Yeah.
and have
Yeah.
them sign it.
And we did 3 tiers. The first 2 would be only coming from the constables who administer
Okay,
the program. And the third is giving the recreation department, giving permission for
For Ashley. and
for
Bethany.
Ashley and Bethany
because they
to
are
do the
already-
outreach, so they could disseminate.
Yes, but they already have access to the list because they're part of the elder care program, so that's why it's within the rec department. And they're a town entity. This is the pantry is not a part of the town department. Technically, they're part of the town as a whole, like they're in our building, but not an actual town
right,
Right.
department.
right.
That's why the town of Rochester, the girls work with confidentiality with the after-school program and everything, so we felt comfortable letting them have access, since they already have access.
Okay.
So
Thank you for
item
clarifying.
2 is administered by the constables, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's allowing them, they have this information that they'll have with them. And the original program said that we can do non-emergency visits, but that was never part of the original form. So we're including that now.
People who sign up are the constables administer the program. They're signed up for general wellness checks, either on specific requests by a relative or by the person themselves. So what this will allow is the constables to bring information to them about programs like the food pantry.
From Office of the Aging, which would
Office of
cover
the
Meals on
Aging,
Wheels,
yeah.
My Food Pantry, which is a different food pantry that covers this area, like they can get it from multiple entities, to anyone that covers the town of Rochester
Yeah.
area.
And
It's
they
the
can
biggest
do that
service.
in a non-emergency.
The biggest challenge we find is getting that information to the people and making that connection. I mean, we have a very large list from the senior program, but those are the people that are out in the public and involved, engaged. The people that we're not getting to are the people that are, have limited ability to
Yeah,
get
they're
out.
very homebound.
They're homebound, yeah. So this will,
They'll do medications that drop off for them, which is an emergency visit technically, but let's say that we have the pancake breakfast or the senior breakfast for the seniors here. So we do the takeout food, them saying yes, if they can have non-emergency visits, they can sign up and have the constable bring them their meals and have that.
do you remember, Aaron, did I make you the liaison to the elder care program?
So I was gonna say.
I was just gonna say, it
Um,
sounded like Charlotte should
We
take it on.
talked about it, Loki. I'm not, but we don't
I
have
don't,
one.
I don't think
currently.
I named one.
Yeah, we don't have one currently.
Yeah, I'd be happy, I mean, obviously, I'm not
Would
gonna
you-
be approval it, but I would be happy. to take
Okay,
over as
so
liaison for
I'm
that.
gonna make an official designation. Well, let's do a vote on
Yeah.
this resolution first, then I will. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Next, I will officially, as the supervisor, designate the liaison to the elder care program as councilwoman. So, thank you very much. We'll have 2 reports to give now.
Yay.
Next, pursuant to the town of Rochester procurement policy and best value implementation of vendor selection, town of Rochester Town Board authorizes the town supervisor to make an offer of opportunity for contract to, and we'll fill in the blank, to provide municipal website design, implementation, client support, and hosting services the town of Rochester.newyork.gov website. Does somebody want to make a recommendation of the name insert? Yeah, was that the, I think, was it revised?
Provide the official name of.
I think it's just revised.
I thought it was just.
I will clarify if it's like revised LLC.
Yes, yeah, provide.
Yeah. We'll say revise and I can clarify for Kate with the. So you're making that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion.
When so this is, you're offering the opportunity.
Opportunity
The
for contract.
actual contract will get reviewed by the
Yes.
attorney. and all.
So what we will do is we will say, we held the interview process. First, we asked for the request for quotes or request for proposal. We got back, we narrowed it down to 4. We interviewed those 4. This is who now we're offering them the opportunity to present us a contract. Mary Lou will review the contract. I will come back to you guys authorizing me to sign the contract. I'm sure in between Mary Lou will have some changes and things. And then, so this is just offering them the ability for a contract. If it doesn't work out, we go to somebody else. So, but this is, what we're saying is this is our first choice. Now it goes back to them to get us a contract.
I'd like to see the contract if that's possible as well.
Well, you will too before we authorize something. So, yeah. Now, everybody on the board will see the contract. But this is, we're offering them the opportunity to make the contract. We have to do that as part of the offering. So we've selected them as a vendor with this resolution. They now present a contract. Mary Lou reviews it. We either agree or disagree with the contract. And so you get another vote on the contract itself. So you can't really ask 2 agencies for contracts to compare them. We have to pick one to say, give us a contract. And then that's what we're doing now. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Okay. On request of the town clerk historian, Town of Rochester Town Board agrees to co-sponsor the Friends of Historic Rochester Heritage Day to be held October 1st, 2022, and authorize the use of the Harold Lipton Community Center, Town Hall, and Town Park facilities and properties. The town board further authorizes the town supervisor to utilize the town insurance policy as an additional insured policy for the purposes of closure of Main Street Accord from Scenic Road to Granite Road for the event at no additional cost to the town, provided a COI, certificate of insurance, is received from all vendors and or organizations who will be utilizing the closed road. The town clerk, recreation director, and town supervisor shall coordinate with Friends of Historic Rochester office. Have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Have a second?
I'll second.
So this came up last year. They need a certificate of insurance. The county does in order to close the road. Our insurance agent came back and said, anybody who you're allowing to set up a vendor booth on that needs to have insurance to protect you, meaning us. We resolved it last year for the smaller vendors, and the fire department was able to let people piggyback off their insurance policy, which is different than our municipal policy. So those vendors were in a fire department parking lot, the vendors who could supply the insurance, which were a lot of not-for-profit groups and things like that, because they have these policies. They were able to be on the road. I think it worked out really well, and hopefully we'll have the same result. So Kate is well. The reason we're asking now and not later in the summer is Kate is well into planning this. So, bigger and better than last year. So any discussion or questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Okay. What do you need from me? Anything beyond that?
No.
Okay. Next, authorize co-sponsoring of the historic farm tour on request of the town clerk and historic preservation commission. Town of Rochester Town Board agrees to co-sponsor with the Friends of Historic Rochester the Historic Barn Tour to be held July 23rd, 2022. That's right. Okay. Town Board further authorizes the town supervisor to utilize the town insurance policy as an additional insured policy. The town clerk and town supervisor shall coordinate with Friends of Historic Rochester on this. I have a motion. Second?
Second.
Hey, you want to, just because you did some research on this.
Yes,
so-
I spoke to the insurance company and they just request that every stop for the barn tour to be listed as additional insured for that day. I believe we plan on stopping at 3, possibly 4 locations. So once I get all of that completely squared away, then we'll submit it to the insurance company, but they did not seem to think it would be a problem at all.
Right, it said as long as the addresses are listed,
Right.
then we're covered, so, under our existing policy. And that's because it's a Historic Preservation Commission sponsored event. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next, this is the added resolution. This afternoon, received this pavilion use agreement request from the Farrell family. They would like to do on August 27th, a Sergeant Sean Farrell Memorial event. They're asking for use of the entire town park and for a waiver of the normal $50 fee for the pavilion use. I think it's a very good thing for us to do. So I'll make a motion that we waive the fee and waive the deposit as well, and allow the use of the entire town park on August 27th, 2022 for the Sergeant Sean Farrell Memorial.
Second.
Okay.
And so this is a private event.
The private event as do you know enough more about it? This came in, I think, after you left today.
Yeah.
Tabitha took the call and then sort of forwarded me this.
So my take on it is that it's a fundraiser for their spot. They do a sponsorship every year and they do different events throughout the year to make money for that. The only thing I was wondering is insurance, how you want to handle the insurance of that. I don't even know if the organization would have insurance.
The use of the park is, I know, is covered under our insurance. I mean, anybody who's using the park, and they're not charging a fee, it's a fundraiser, so. Do you want to table this until I check with our insurance company? Because literally it came in today. Just make sure that our insurance covers.
Sure,
will
and
cover
we
this
can
event.
hold this, the,
Yeah, if you can hold
Park
the
for
date
them.
and make sure nobody, and that was the other thing I wanted to make sure with you, that the date wasn't already taken, but,
No, they have the extra Pennsylvania.
okay. So I'll give an answer before our next meeting, and if you can let them know, you know. Yeah,
I thought that we did require insurance.
No, we were not, because I think we talked to Dwight and he said there's nothing in here about insurance.
but they are responsible. We do have a thing.
I'm not sure what you're saying.
Oh, just any, they take full responsibility for loss of damage. to
Yeah.
property.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if I remember right, Mary Lou, we talked, and because it's a public park, White said we were okay. There's nothing in the use agreement. They just assume responsibility, and we normally collect a refundable deposit of $50 that we determine after the event, we return it to them. And we say that, you know, they're responsible for the cleanup and for any damages, but we haven't been asking for insurance.
Okay.
Yeah. I know that was a question that came up, and I believe the outcome was clarification with White that it wasn't necessary. So, because if somebody from the public just comes and uses the park and something gets broken, our insurance covers that. So-
Right. Well, the question was, we usually, most places have whoever's using it give us certificate naming us as additional insured in case something of their negligence causes harm.
Yeah, that's where we
Because-
got it. Sorry.
So that's fine. If
Yeah, that's where we got into it with like renting it out for birthday parties. People don't have insurance for birthday parties and stuff. So I think we totally moved away from that. Once we confirmed with White, we were covered.
Oh, I know that Marbletown only does it for alcohol use in the community center.
We
They
don't
require insurance to
allow
that.
no tobacco, no alcoholic beverages, no gambling.
For normal events, I know I had the community center there, and they didn't require any insurance.
So-
There's no
Do we know how large this is?
And specific time, it's not just.
The same weekend as the concert shut down.
Yeah, I don't see that they're going to conflict. I
I think it's
anticipate.
gonna be hard to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is too, but my guess is we're probably talking. I mean, it's not, we're not talking thousands.
Can we maybe get a time specification so we make sure traffic wise? so
Yeah, can
close
we
to
find out the
exiting of-
times of, can you maybe find out the time of the actual event? I mean, I know they want to rent
Just
it
a
from
tour
dusk to
reminder.
dawn or use it to dusk, but find out the time frame. I mean, they're not that close to each other, so.
I just worry about 209 if they're ending at the same time, and then people are trying to come out of Medicon, so they're coming off Main Street, that it might jam up 209. So.
Yeah, I don't foresee it being that big.
We're saying 150 people, I think it's not cars, plus what that, monster truck is.
I don't know, but I
Yeah.
would assume people are gonna come in throughout the day, we could
Yeah.
all end at one time.
Yeah,
but-
it's not
but I
the
don't know.
type of event that's gonna start and stop, and it's gonna become, it's like a family day kind of thing. I just don't see it being that, no different than any other summer traffic on 209.
There's a stop like that.
So we're gonna table it.
Well, we'll table it till I find out from White about the drawing blank on apologize. No, but it wasn't insurance, because the insurance is covered. What were we gonna ask?
To see if we need to have them.
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Is it for a bigger
For a
event?
bigger event
bigger
like that.
Okay. Sounds good.
But we're,
Because
think
I'm
we're all
anticipating they won't, because
support.
Yeah, we're all supportive.
I mean, it's set up as a 501c3, but it's a family-run organization. So it's set up, I don't know, I shouldn't say I know it's set up as a 501c3. I shouldn't say that, but it might,
I believe.
because they are charitable. They did set it up as a charitable organization. Okay, so next, ambulance district improvements. Michael filled you in a little. This is a copy of the map that Michael did. So the light pink area is the Barbletown First Aid Unit. The sort of, and Mary Lou, I'll email this to you. The light blue area is the KFAS area. The white area, Warsick covers. We're not doing an ambulance district for them. They haven't asked for any funding. They haven't asked, so.
And that large parcel is state land.
And yeah, that really large parcel is state land. So there's about 9 or 10 parcels up there. Michael was able to create a list of the SPLs of all of the district, including the partial properties. I transmitted that to Jeremy. He's working with the goal of getting us back answers for our meeting on the 18th. What he's going to do is get the total taxable valuation for the entire district. He will also supply to us the average 1 or 2 family residential property, the valuation of that. Michael has secured from KFAS and from Marbletown the amount of what they're asking for. The one thing with KFAS, that's a total amount. I know, like this year, we said we're giving them 75%, and we said, well, Warsaw giving them the other 25%. My plan is to take their number and again do 75% of their number, because just like the piece of Marbletown, we're not funding the entire Marbletown, we're just funding a portion of it. So And the number that they gave you is based on just that portion of Rochester. So unless you want to go to KFAS and ask them to come up with a number, I think we'll just go with the same 75%. We did that based on number of parcels last year. We found out the total number of parcels and the total. Now we did it on number of calls. We looked at the number of calls in Rochester, number of calls in Warsing. It was about 75-25. So that's where we use that number.
Okay.
So that's my plan. I just wanted to fill you in so you know, and the 18th, we may be adopting a resolution to file this and the report with Kate. And then at that time, we, so the next step after the filing of the report and that the average prices, Mary Lou, then we put it out again for, you're muted.
Sorry, the dog barked again. I had to put her in
That's okay.
isolation. Yeah, after that, we go to public hearing on forming the district itself.
Go to public hearing.
Yep, and after the public hearing, you can determine whether or not you want to form the district. If you decide to form the district, that is subject to a permissive referendum.
So the public hearing is on the district itself, the amount to be funded, and the report.
Yes,
Correct?
and yeah. And, you know, if after public hearing, you decide that you need to switch things up a little bit, then you'll have a second public hearing after you
Okay.
make your amendments.
Okay. Are there any, do we have to refer this to anybody, to the state for comment or anything?
I don't think we do because of the way it's being funded.
Okay.
There are certain times that would have to be presented to the comptroller's office, but this is not one of them.
I think if we create the district, we have to file it with the comptroller, correct?
I will
think
look,
remember.
I will look at the filing.
Yeah, I think I
If I
remember.
have to do
your-
it with the
your list.
county and,
Yeah, we have to, I think we have to file with the comptroller, or maybe it's the Department of State, if we create the district, so.
probably the comptroller because
Yeah.
we'll be taxing.
Yeah, that makes sense. But we'll be getting to that stage. The granary seeker, I got, Mary Lou and I had a conference call with Mike Morial, the attorney, this morning. There were some holes in their seeker. We now have a completed form.
Actually, we have a next to completed form. I noticed at the top of page 11, the first question, it's V or 5, Roman numeral 5, is
Yeah.
not answered, but I got in touch with Michael and Dennis, and they told me that to please fill that in with a no. If we need it initialed by Dennis or something, they can, but that
Okay.
was an oversight, and that is a no.
Okay, I'm gonna.
So
do
I've got that
right
in an
now.
email.
Okay, I'm gonna put a check in there.
Yeah.
And I will correct it. With that, and with Mary Lou's recommendation, I'm gonna make a motion that we circulate intent to seek lead agency for,
Have
the
we typed
granary-
this yet, Mike?
no, because it'll be part of the intent to seek lead agency. I'm making it all in one motion.
Okay,
So we circulate intent to seek lead agency for the granary project, the granary at Ackworth, 2 Towpath Road, 4 Towpath Road, 8 Towpath Road. Tentatively setting this as a type 1 action. And we will circulate intent to seek lead agency to the Ulster County Department of Public Works, the Ulster County Department of Health, the New York State DEC, and the, Mario, who do we circulate to for the pilot that they're seeking? That's,
I
That's
believe they
the,
have, they amended to include the IDA.
right, because it doesn't
And-
say that on here, so, and also to.
Right, it
Ulster
was
County-
not on that, but they sent an amendment in that added IDA.
Right, I was just trying to remember their legal name, Ulster County
Industrial Development
Development
Association.
Agency,
Agency.
Ulster County Industrial Development Agency. So it would be the Department of Public Works, Department of Health, New York State DEC, and the Ulster County Industrial Development Agency.
And you can, just to keep it, make sure everything gets in there, put all involved agencies listed, because they did do that amendment that may have more.
Okay. And any other involved agencies as may be determined by the amendment. Well, Michael always lists everybody, including interested agencies, but you know.
Yeah, but he does them separately. He does interested and involved.
Okay. Do you have it in front of you? to
Now I'm
verify?
seeing if I can pull it up.
Yeah. I thought it was all in the seeker form. All right,
They
Kate.
added
Here's the
to it
motion.
in that amendment that they gave us at the April workshop meeting.
Understood. I have that right here next to me.
Oh yeah, I was looking on my computer, but you guys actually gave it to me. It's a yellow folder.
Yep. Is that in one of his memos?
You know, I do not let's see. I do not remember which document it was in.
Amending zoning petition. Yeah, he didn't do his standard naming of agencies because oh, here we go.
It's on
It's in here. I know it is.
it's on the, at the end of the,
What's the page number?
there's no page number. It's, the EAF and the seeker stuff is all
Yeah,
pinned together at that back of that. There's the amended documents, seeker long EAF part 1 addendum.
okay, I got it.
Permits and approvals, involved agencies.
Got it. Yep,
On
okay.
page
Thank
2.
you, Erin.
That.
Involved agencies, town board, planning board. Oh, yeah, we need to put the planning board, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna remake my motion. I would move that we circulate intent to seek lead agency for the granary at Ackford project located at 2 Towpath Road, 4 Towpath Road, and 8 Towpath Road. With seeking lead agency preliminary classified as a type 1 action. The involved agencies will be the Town of Rochester Planning Board, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, the Ulster County Health Department, the Ulster County Department of Public Works, the Ulster County Industrial Development Agency. Very well, he's got Empire State Development, grant funding source. Don't they do their own seeker on grant?
If they have to if they're giving a grant, that's an approval.
Okay.
So
Empire State, okay, Empire State Development, New York State Housing and Community Redevelopment Agency, New York Main Street Stabilization Program.
I guess they're looking for money different places.
They are, and they've gotten some of this already, which is why I think the seeker has probably already been done by some of those. That's the
Involved.
that's the list of involved agencies. So that's all we need to concern ourselves with at the moment. So I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion?
It's always better to have more than you need than less than you need.
Understood.
Can someone explain quickly what the impact of seeking lead agency is? Because I heard Mark's comments.
Yep. The lead agency is, so what happens is when an application comes in, the first agency that reviews a project has to establish lead agency for seeker. Seeker has to be done on the entire project. Because they are applying to us for a zoning change, which is step one, if we don't give them the zoning change, overlay change, nothing else happens. So by being lead agency, we are now conducting the seeker review, which is the State Environmental Quality Review Act, which basically is answering the questions on this form. Seeker 101, this is part one, filled out by the applicant. We then do part two, which identifies impacts based on what we've had submitted to us and replies back from the agencies. Part three is the conclusions of what those impacts mean. Can they be mitigated? Can they not be mitigated? You then either declare a negative declaration or you go to a scoping, which is where you pinpoint the environmental issues. And environment doesn't just mean air, water, it means things like community, economic, all those things. One agency has to essentially be the lead. That's what the term lead agency means. It can be any one of those involved agencies. To be an involved agency means you're a permitting agency or you're granting, you have authority over something or other, like those funding sources, they get to decide whether they grant funding. And because they're a state agency, they're a private agency wouldn't have. But because they're going to a state or a federal agency for funding, they're obligated to follow the seeker. So type 1 action is always a coordinated review by law. So what we're doing but with that resolution is we are circulating our intent to be the lead on the review of the seeker form. We notify all these agencies that we are seeking the agency. They have 30 days, whether to say, yes, go ahead, or if they don't answer at all, you assume that they have no concerns. If they come back and say, no, I want to be lead agency, then it goes to the New York State DEC commissioner to review and decide which agency has the greater review power. In this case, the reason with the EEOs, I've been a proponent of the town board being the lead agency is the EEO, sure, if we don't grant the EEO, these actions don't take place, or they go to the planning board just directly under the regular zoning code, in which case we're not involved. So that's why I've always been a proponent of, and especially this project, there's a greater benefit to the community, more so than just the traditional site plan or special use permit. We're talking about the possibility of the rail trail coming through here. There's a community that the planning board is not really empowered to review that level of detail, whereas we are, because the planning board can only review an application against the.
Well, they're not empowered to review for the
project
purpose of zoning, but
Good
they are
understanding.
empowered to review seeker. Whatever agency ends up being lead agency reviews the entire project for all.
So if it were to go to another agency, they would have to go to that other agency, do seeker, then come back to us for the EEO. So the only other agency that would even be potentially the lead agency, in my personal opinion, is the planning board. The health department has a very specific permit. The DPW may not even be involved because right now they're not proposing an access out onto Granite, but just in case, let's get them involved. The IDA is strictly about a pilot and funding. So it's really between us and the planning board. My opinion is the community engagement of the benefits to the hamlet of Accord, the downtown community is why we should be lead agency on this project. Doesn't take it away from the planning board. They're still involved. We're still sending them all the information. They get to send us back comments. The planning board sometimes sort of co-mingles their review with the seeker. In this case, it can't happen because until we send it to them, for site plan review, because with the EEO, we're not sending it for special use, we're sending it for site plan. So that's a totally separate review than seeker. So they would have to review seeker, then come back to us, then go back to the planning board. Doesn't really make sense. That's my opinion.
I just had a couple of logistical questions just on the point that you were making, Mike. The planning board meeting is on Monday, and we're saying we have 30 days to respond and comment.
No, just to respond if they want to be lead
Okay.
agency. The comments can come at any time. Do you want to be, it's a simple yes or no question. Do you want to be lead agency? Mike Moriello actually normally has a form that he fills out and puts a yes, no, circle the one you want, send it back. So they can just say yes or no. If they choose to want to contest it, then.
Right, I guess I was more, if they wanted to comment, because sometimes they would.
Understood,
Want to
and
comment
they
on
can
some of the
comment at
secret
any
stuff.
time until such time as we make a determination.
Right.
They don't have to wait for us to send them. They can continue to review on their own. Every piece of documentation we get will be sent to every single involved agency. So
So they get copies of it.
they get copied every piece of the information. It's a little bit organizational, and I think in this case, because it involves a zoning district change, in my opinion, we are the agency that has the sort of greater review authority. So if somebody differs, I'm happy to hear that.
The two projects that we have in front of us now, the granary and the Maybrook estate, they fundamentally could change the look of the town. It's not a subdivision, it's not a lot line adjustment, it's not even a sizable project. It fundamentally can change.
And just to clarify, we are the lead agency for the Maybrook.
Yeah, we
was
did that
already
last
done.
year.
That was
last
that was last year we did that. And the other EEO that we had previously was, we were the lead agency on that as well. So,
Yeah, I was only asking process wise, so that the planning board meets on Monday.
Yep.
We just need to get them that, because they might not have their workshop meeting.
right.
And then the 30 days.
And they could choose to have their workshop meeting, just come up with comments if they want, that's certainly their right. We can't really worry about schedules, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't mean to sound so harsh about it, but schedules are what they are. I mean, it's ready to be circulated for lead agency. We can't wait till the 18th and then it pushes in another month. And so, I mean, we could, but it makes no sense. We have a completed document here ready to go. It just keeps the flow going. And if they want to decide to challenge it, that's certainly their right. They can. That's the key word, intent to seek lead agency. Because if we don't take it, then we have to send a letter saying, does anybody want to be lead agency? That's the letter we
Right.
send otherwise, because as the first stop of this review, it's up to us to initiate the process. I think with the changes that it potentially can bring to the community, the benefits, how it adheres to the comprehensive plan, all that, I think it's more properly the seeker review. The site plan will still get reviewed by the planning board. They will still talk about parking, water, all the things they normally talk about. Doesn't take anything away from that. I think that's what happened with Maybrook, is they felt like we were taking something away from that, but we're not.
So personally, I like the idea of having inputs, particularly for this project, because I do think revitalization of downtown is important. Selfishly, I'd like to have a voice in that process. My concerns stem from the planning board, or people that we select as a town that have kind of the historical knowledge, have more of the expertise. At least in my case, I know other people here have more experience in that. So that would be my concern, is I don't want to look at this, this information like the water document alone in the Walnut Brook was like 40 pages, and I'm like, okay, well, I know where water is, but so I want to make sure that we're doing justice to the information that's coming.
Well,
That's my only concern.
I think when we look at the EEO, the board becomes more like a general contractor. We don't have to be water experts. That's what the DEP does. We don't have to be site plan perfectionists. That's what the planning board does. But it's such a large project that it needs another level of oversight or review, to make sure that it's doing everything that it needs to do. That just nothing gets missed or, along the way. And again, I know, I'm sure our planning board would do a great job with it. I'm sure, other things would be great. It's just, it's so big and so important. It really should be overseen by the board.
well, to speak to that level too, Michael, planning board doesn't, nobody on the planning board can dissect, well, I shouldn't say no, I don't know this for a fact, but my guess is nobody on the planning board is going to dissect a 40-page water report either. That's where we have the ability to bring in our consultants, just like they do, to review this, and we will, just like we did with Maybrook. Because of the agenda items that are coming up, and we don't know where we are with the consultant right now. That's why I did not invite the consultant to be here tonight for this, or at the last meeting, because we don't really know where we are. But we have the power to employ, we could employ a consultant just for water if we want to, and it's paid for by the applicant. So,
Now, the other thing is that we'll schedule the gateway too, where you get everybody in the.
well, the gateway meeting was originally scheduled for tomorrow. It fell apart because some people couldn't be there because it's going to involve an awful lot of people. It's now tentatively scheduled for the 20th. Out of that gateway meeting will come a lot of discussion.
Okay.
A lot of voices.
Yeah. And all I was trying to say is I want to make sure, since the planning board is meeting on Monday, that they know, because I want them to be able to have a chance to respond.
Right.
As a board. They can't do anything if they're not public.
No.
So that's all I was saying.
Now, this letter will go out to them. We'll go out to all the involved agencies. I'm going to share the documents. Well, as best I can. I'm going to have to track down some contacts for some of these agencies because I couldn't begin to tell you who the contact person is for
Well,
the
we
New
know
York
who-
State Housing Authority. Hopefully Kate can help me with some of that. Or a lot of Google searches, but we'll find it and we'll get it out to them, and we'll circulate it all by email and get it out to the involved agencies. And then the clock starts ticking from when they receive it. So, and they have 30 days to respond. It doesn't mean that we have to, like on day 31, we have to decide, but if they haven't responded, we can take action at that point. So, and if they do respond and we haven't taken action, I think they still have the ability. Is that correct, Mary Lou? If we haven't taken action on declaring ourselves lead agency after the 30 days, they still, like if day 32, if somebody said, hey, I want to be lead agency and we haven't declared ourselves.
I don't believe so. I think after 30 days,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
determined to be acceptance. But they
Okay.
can most definitely, if they're not comfortable making a decision Monday night, because this will be coming to them very last minute, they could certainly make that decision at their workshop meeting and still be within their 30 days.
Okay. All that, it's a roll call vote.
Councilman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilman Allen.
Aye.
Councilman Paddock.
Aye.
Councilman Smisek. Aye. Supervisor Dayton.
Aye. Okay, I will get that written tomorrow, get that out. Next, the video participation for meetings local law. We thought it had to be done by June 8th, but Mary Lou discovered today it does not have to be done. The law doesn't have to be done by June 8th. Just you're allowed to continue as is till June 8th. So we will work on a draft for that.
Yeah, and I watched a meeting that Committee on Open Government had with the Bar Association, Committee on State and Local Government while I was away, but luckily they sent me the Zoom link. And the director of the Committee on Open Government said that they are going to work on a draft
Model law?
template. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, and I wouldn't be surprised if some others come out. But yeah, we'll work on that. It is not
I took a
as,
shot at it, and Mary told me I failed miserably, but that's okay.
yeah.
I wrote it pretty quickly, so. Not a zoning law, it's not in my wheelhouse.
We won't say miserably, but
Okay,
but we'll be changing it up a bit.
okay. It's not my best local law, we'll leave it at that. Next, child safety ID kits. I get a lot of emails every day out of the blue, companies wanting to sell us stuff. Normally, I move them into my records folder, and this one caught my eye. I read about it. I did a little research on their website. These people, they offer these child safety kits, and the list there is what is in it. If you buy 100 to 500, they're $2.50 each. If you buy 500 or greater, they're $2 each. What it is when we get these kits, you give the parents take care of the photo, the fingerprints, all that. They hold them. This way, the parents have all the information pre-saved in one place, in one location, in case something were to ever happen, and they have all the information. I think it's not a bad idea, and for $2 a kit for 500, if people want to do a little more research on it, that's fine. But I'm ready to buy 500 and use through our rec department to disperse them. That's fine. If you guys want to do a little, and I know I just sprung this on you, but for me, $1,000 spent, I think it's $1,000 well spent, and a great service we can offer to the community. So, but if people want to do, I don't know if there's competitors out there. I didn't really look. I did go to this company's site. It seems very legitimate. It seems very,
I'd like to just double check, because I know that there's sometimes I've gotten these items like this for free at the food pantry from certain programs that are already offered through the county or the state. So I just want to double check that there's not one already that offers them for
That's
free.
fine.
Not that I think that it's a
Somebody
bad
wants to
cost to spend
do some more
$1,000 on them,
research,
but
that's fine.
just to make sure that we're getting more bang.
Because I was going to propose that we use $1,000 of the ARPA money for this, because this certainly would fit the category.
We've done things like this at the corporate level before for community organizations. Down in Long Island, we sponsored something like this for a community. I can take a look into that.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not even, you can put your company logo on it. I'm not even thinking about that. I'm just, generic is fine with me, but I think it's something a lot of parents don't think about. But I think if we offered it, parents would go, oh, wow, this is something good to have. And I don't know if 500 is the right number. 500 seems like, I don't know how
I think
many.
that's a fair number, because I know I had this done as a kid at like a PTA meeting in elementary school. So I know that they've had that the school district does, they at least, I'm talking over 20 years ago, but they did at least offer like
I can
fingerprint
tell
and
you
stuff
when
like that.
they don't do it anymore that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I mean, at least they weren't 6 years ago when I was on the school board. So.
Yeah, I'm just doing a quick Google search of it. And I am seeing lots of places where you can get free kits, like, McGruff, the crime dog that we see on TV sometimes. They have kits that people can order for free.
Okay. Well,
I mean, if
you want
it's
to
a
do some
service we can offer,
you want to do some comparisons too, because they say why theirs are better than others.
It might be that that's like a single kit that if a family reaches out is free, like this would be for us to offer them for free to people. So yeah, I'll do a little.
If you want to do a little
I'm happy
research
to.
and get back to me, I just think it would be it's
I
kind
like
of
the idea.
it's not very expensive. It's something we can do. It's something we can coordinate through our rec program or through the clerk's office to disperse them, or however.
We
give them to the Little League, however we decide to get
have
that.
constables have it too, like it's available to have a safety get there.
And I, you know, there's about 1,700 school-age kids in Rondell Valley, so that's made up of a number of communities. So, you know, maybe it's 750 and not 500. I don't know. Even still, at $2 a kit, it's not a huge investment, and something somebody probably isn't going to buy on their own, but if you give them one for free, they're probably going to take advantage of it. So.
Under the header of public health, wellness, and safety.
Yep, that was my thought. Okay. Next, the municipal planner employee, just to give you a quick update. We had, I put the application indeed on pause. We had 33 applicants. 11 of them I moved to the not being considered because they just didn't have the qualifications. Out of that 22, I emailed them to Sam, who was going to represent the planning board, Bruce Saris, who's going to represent the ZBA, Mary Lou, Adam, and myself, to pick a top 5 or 6. Sam was an overachiever, he picked 6, but that's okay. Going to extend the offer to interview those people that are on the top list. See where it goes. I have had conversation with a couple other supervisors with no takers as of yet, but it's only been 2 or 3 supervisors I've talked to. I don't want to name names, but one town expressed possible interest, the supervisors did. They were going to talk to their board. I'll follow up with them and see if they did. A couple other supervisors are happy with the situation they have. Very few seem to be seeing the amount of development that we're seeing. It's a little surprising to me, to be honest, but I guess it just goes fit where we are in the, 10 years ago it was the other side of the mountain, and now it's come over the mountain. So maybe that's it. But anyway, that's where we stand. So that committee will get together, sort of make a recommendation back to the board. Whether we go with that person as an employee, whether we hire that person as an independent contractor, a vendor, that's still sort of to be determined. The difference between that and a firm that we have is the prices I'm hearing from sole proprietors is a third less than what we're paying now. And if we do it as an employee, it'll be, maybe 30% of what we're paying now, 25% of what we're paying now. One way, Mary Lou, you'll have to tell me if this is legal or not. Can we establish an escrow account? And if we have an employee who's a planner, can they track the hours? We can't bill those hours back. You can only do it through application fees.
Correct.
Okay. I had a feeling that would be your answer, but I was just brainstorming. So if we do go with employee, we'll have to raise our application fees. Nothing is to say we couldn't hire this person as an individual. I just think the rate of what we're paying now is sustainable. The broadband mapping, pretty much you heard it already from Michael. Today's meeting, we've got about 40 properties, and Michael, I look forward to hearing those numbers. We can talk more tomorrow on that. Solid waste littering. Oh, no, the moratorium public hearing continuation date. Since we're doing the public hearing for the comp plan on the 25th, do we want to schedule this? I will tell you, the county last night more or less considered them as one application. They treated them as 2 separate referrals, but they talked about them kind of they kind of go hand in hand. But I will say, by supplying them together, the county understood exactly what we're doing. They said, oh, they had their comp plan in 2006. They adopted all these other documents, or had all these other, not adopted, but had all these other studies done. Now they want to adopt them as part of their comp plan in order to move forward with their local laws, because under New York state law, their your zoning laws and your subdivision laws, all your land use laws have to relate back to your company. So by adopting these, it's a direct connection. So I almost think having that public hearing on the same night makes sense.
I think that's fine, and I also was feeling a little uneasy with the openness of it, and I think, yeah, continuing it to a specific date.
Yeah, well, that's what we would do tonight. We would set that continuation date. I think we left it open because we didn't quite know
Yeah, we
where
didn't
were
know.
headed, but
Yeah.
we will have the county planning board comments back. Our local planning board has had the referral. It would be on their, probably on their agenda for Monday night.
It is.
Yeah, so they can refer us any comments.
And that's not adding an additional public hearing the 25th, right? That's just saying we're closing this.
No,
public
we would
hearing
have, we
afterwards.
have to convene the public hearing.
Yeah.
We can't just close
We
it
left it
because
open.
we left it open. So by being open, we can't just come in and close it. We do have to,
We have to leave time for if there's any more
yeah,
in-person
we have to
comments.
open
Okay.
it again or reconvene it. Not
Gotcha.
open it
Okay.
again. It's already open. It's held open. So we have to reconvene it. We can then close it that night.
We didn't put any caveats on it, other times we held it open for written comment only.
We had-
Okay,
we
I
held
can't
it
remember if
open.
we did it for
do
written
that, we just held it open.
We held it open to a time to be determined because in this case, because the planning board and the county get to comment on it, the public should have the ability to see those responses in case they want to comment on those responses as well.
And you said that the county planning board had responded, but not in writing?
Not yet, it was last night.
It was last night. We will get the written comments. Yeah, yeah. And they just met last night. I'm just, because I'm on the board, I'm filling you in on what they, and by the way, I, by law, I have to recuse myself from their vote on those things, so. I actually
And discussion.
turned my camera off, so they didn't even see my face, but then it went well, so,
You
Yeah,
want to
very well.
influence them with facial expressions.
yeah. So,
So is that gonna have to be after the special
Yes,
meeting that
so
we're
it-
scheduled?
no, it would be after the other two public hearings. So we would, so, and then the special meeting. So we would, so I'll make a motion that we reconvene the public hearing, local law, is it A? No.
Yeah.
You can just call it the local law on moratorium.
Okay,
And
we
you
can
don't
do
have
the
to
local-
give them numbers.
we convene the local law on the moratorium to be held at the Town of Rochester Community Center to immediately follow the public hearing on the addendum to the comprehensive plan.
But the date,
Oh, May 25th.
and you have to authorize the clerk
And
to
authorize the
publish
clerk
legal notice.
to circulate notice.
I said it.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Okay.
What time is that meeting?
So the workshop is at 6. The public hearings start at 7. We'll have the 3 public hearings. And then we have a special meeting after that in case we want to take any action.
Not workshop, then. Audit?
Yeah, audit.
It's an audit meeting and it's the Wednesday, the 25th.
Mike, you're gonna get here a few minutes early to do stuff, before 6.
I'm here about 5:30. This, if it's more than 2 of us, we can't talk about it. You can sit and sign all you want, but they gotta kind of like send you to other parts of the room. So,
Okay.
That's an audit meeting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
we've been doing our public hearings after the audit. for some
So
reason.
we
We
scheduled
moved
it.
it from Thursday to Wednesday because of the grievance
Got
day.
it, okay.
Because the grievance day by law is scheduled on the same day. No, we changed it. We changed it just the other.
Yeah,
last
we
meeting.
got it.
Sure, nice.
Next, and it's 9:30, so you guys tell me, this is the solid waste littering law with the changes that you guys, we talked about last week.
Can you send this as a red line? Or do you not have?
I don't have it as a red line because what I did is I just crossed it out because we weren't really starting with a document. This is the starting document. We just kind of went through and changed words, and so I don't have it as a red line. I could figure that out, but
No, I think, if we could just review it and then maybe put it in the workshop.
You need to schedule a public hearing?
you mean not schedule the public hearing, it's schedule when the public hearing is
Yeah.
going to be.
Yeah.
We can do
Well,
that.
do you think we're ready to do it now?
It's up to you. The changes I made are the ones, we walked through it line by line the other night.
Well, yeah, I guess I suppose my piece is good, so I'd be comfortable. with it.
Yeah, let's keep moving this along.
This does not need a referral to
Right.
anybody. It's a local
Because it's a
law.
local law.
It's not a land use law. So,
Yeah, because you may be buried in. a lot of
And this
stuff.
poor little law's been kicked down the street.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I first presented this like April or May of last year, and I kind of got, Adam says it best, got kicked down the street quite a few times.
I think we should schedule the public hearing because we're about to schedule a lot of public
Yeah.
On
hearings.
the 25th, you want to do it?
No,
No, I don't think we want to go 4 public hearings in one night, at least not on this. Maybe when we get to the zoning code, because then it'll be boom, 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 boom. But right now, we could schedule it for a regular meeting in June.
Second.
That,
I
I don't know if we're gonna get a lot of comments or not.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I don't see there's gonna be a lot of public outcry.
Do we want to schedule the public hearing a half hour early and schedule it at 6 o'clock?
Yeah,
I think
just
that
an
would probably
idea.
be the better.
Yeah, let's.
So then we don't have to do we just schedule the public hearing at 6 o'clock, and if the other meeting is at 6:30, and the public hearing is still going on, we just continue the public hearing and the other one starts later.
Yeah.
The legislature does that all the time, so.
Yeah. Cool.
They're meeting, they're supposed to start at 7, and sometimes they start at almost 8.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to schedule the public hearing for local law C of 2022 solid waste and littering for June 2nd, 2022 at 6 p.m.
At the Harold
Harold
Lipton
Lipton
At the
Community.
Harold.
Community Center and authorize the clerk to publish
Circulation.
legal notice of same.
I was just taking a pause.
Yeah.
I would say circulation, because that covers everybody, but
Second.
thank you. We've already had lots of discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. I got it all digitally.
Okay.
We get you all the way.
Yeah. I feel personally attached to that one because I worked on it a lot. Just to fill you in on the zoning and subdivision revisions, I cranked out 4 local laws already. Didn't want to overwhelm you guys tonight. Probably at the workshop meeting, bring a bunch of them. Also to let you know at the workshop meeting, the HPC is going to come talk to us about Allentown Schoolhouse. It's going to be Wilton and Bill DeGraw for sure, and maybe this other gentleman, Gary Miller, probably, about work that needs to be done there, or what they think needs to be done, and we need to work on finding funding for it. So. The next, and Aaron, I may sort of slide this over to you, but we got this Climate Smart Communities Grant Program email this week. It's not due till July 29th. I'll be honest, I don't have the energy or time right now to work on it. If somebody else wants to pick it up, there's a lot of opportunity. And if somebody wants to research it more, it's 50-50 matching grants, so we would have to come up with 50% of the funding. But there's $2 million out there. So if somebody wants to do some research on it and come back with some, I'm willing to help out, but I don't have the time to be the point person on it. It's just too much going on.
I skimmed it and I was gonna spend a little bit more time thinking about what we could do and if there.
Can I give you a copy? Yeah. Well, only because I have 2, so maybe. And then the follow-up to that, the Department of State sent this email. Nope, there you go. I kept them both. Got a guy here. Consolidated funding, this is what the state has done is, because grants used to come out all times and each department would have their own schedule. consolidated funding application is, there's one generic application that you fill out for the specifics of your community, and then you fill out the balance of the application for the grant you're going to apply for. This is an announcement of, it's been opened. One of the things that was asked for is, I don't know if there's any historical funding available, like for the Palatine Schoolhouse. We could certainly look into that. But the Department of State sent these out. There's hundreds of grants out there. They're all highly, highly competitive. One of the downside of it being a specific cycle is that everybody sort of waits for this, and then, you know, everybody applies. But we certainly would fit the brownfield opportunity area. The county did a phase 1 brownfield study, two areas in our town. Part of it was the, no, it's just one area of our town. It's the area essentially from the rescue squad down to 4455 in Cohasset. But the area in the town that is in Rochester, we could certainly apply for a phase 2 study. That's one thing we could do. And that would lead to our phase 2 is starting to identify private sources who will sort of work in tandem with the town, kind of like what Blake Arrowwood was talking about, except Ackworth has not been listed as a brownfield. But parts of these other properties, let me take that back. The Brownfield Opportunity Program doesn't mean it's a brownfield. It's community rehabilitation. The money comes from the county, the state brownfield program. So I said that wrong. But there's also smart growth community planning, local government efficiency, local waterfront, potentially something with the stream banks. There's a whole host of them out there, but if you guys want to take a look, if anybody has any ideas, we probably would need to get going on it by no later than June 1st if we're going to do anything, to go out there. You got to pretty much hire a consultant on speculation. Either we pay for it, or you get a consultant that you say, well, if you get the money, we can hire you to do the project. But bear in mind, if it's a project that involves consultants and professional services, then you can. If it's a project that involves goods or materials, we got to go out to bid. So we can't really make any promises. So that's it. I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention. We did file twice for the park and have not gotten it either time. That's all I have. So, we do have to have a quick executive session. We'll do the memoriam.
No executive
Yeah,
session.
no, we do. With Mary Lou. Kate, we want
Then
to.
it's working.
So we'll do the memoriam. And it now says in memoriam, as I was told that it should say. Norman Gray, who was a retired HMEO in our town highway department. Carrie Demo, very tragic accident. Bear Vandermark, personal, was my mechanic for a lot of years on my vehicle. Robert A. Smith Sr., I believe that might be Mark Smith, our constable's father. I don't know for sure. Geraldine Stone, Meredith Pomeroy. Kate, I need help on Peter's resumes. Thank you. Paul Cunningham, Mary Margaret Ayas. Ayas, thank you. Christine Ferrari, and then we continue to think about the people in Ukraine and those suffering from COVID. With that, I'm going to ask for a motion to enter into executive session at 9:38 for the purposes of pending litigation.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Kate, thank you. I hope you feel better.
That's all right. Calm down.
You look like you're doing great.
That's what everyone tells me, and I'm just like.